us on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hey, happy Boxing Day, everybody. You are with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News. Now, normally we drive a heavy goods vehicle through the day's news at 110 miles per hour between 3 and 6 p.m. here. But today, well, look, it's Boxing Day. So we're just going to take things a little bit differently. I've decided, along with my wonderful team here, to pick 4 big news topics. So strikes, royals, NHS and immigration. We're going to stick to them. We're going to pick apart all the different angles there at various different times of the show. For example, Braverman wants to make it harder for immigrants to bring their families to the UK. If the NHS hire a white man, then people who appointed them might have to explain why. It also spends millions of pounds a day on prescribing routine items like shampoo. Can you imagine getting shampoo on the NHS? All of this despite the fact that we keep hearing about how taxpayers aren't paying enough to support our beloved health service. Anyway, does anybody else find it hilarious that Border Force officers going on strike made our airports more efficient? And we will pick apart King Charles's Christmas speech. But we're doing it in a slightly novel way, OK? Because throughout the course of the show, I will be joined by panellists, which doesn't normally happen here 3 till 6. Why? Well, because trying to rely on guests turning up on Boxing Day is apparently about as easy as flying to Neptune. So for our Boxing Day special, we will be joined by Brexit backing, tough talking, seriously sound Ben Habib and rabid lefty Dennis McShane.
Everybody in the Labour Party will be so pleased to hear I've left of anything.
Well, we've got 3 hours, so I was going to say, yes, an unusual Christmas gift, but hey, nonetheless. Anyway, they will both be delivering their alternative Christmas speeches as well. So you'll get to be king for a day, chaps. You get to be king for a day, but of course it's a day for relaxing as well. A day for overeating, for cuddling loved ones on the sofa, getting absolutely smashed on Baileys, mulled wine, normal wine, beer, spirits, just getting absolutely smashed, really. Anyway, it's a day to be lazy. Some weirdos go swimming first thing in the morning or for a massive walk, but whatever. So throughout the course of this show, I want you lovely people, to send in pictures of how you are spending Boxing Day, and the lazier the better, OK? gbviews@gbnews.uk is that email address. Are you out and about with your family? You're curled up in a ball on the sofa with your dog on your lap. You're surrounded by food and wine. Extra points will be awarded if you include GB News and your TV in your picture. And animals, of course, can't go wrong for animals in the pics. Make sure you show me what you're doing with your leftovers. News topics today: strikes, royals, NHS, immigration, everything else Boxing Day related. Now, though, time for your latest headlines.
Good afternoon. 3 minutes past 3. I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. Police have named a woman who was killed in a Merseyside pub shooting on Christmas Eve as Elle Edwards. The 26-year-old was taken to hospital but later died. 4 men have also been treated for gunshot injuries. Officers say the search is continuing for the gunman, but it's not believed to have been a targeted attack. Jersey police say a 10th person has now died as a result of an explosion at a block of flats earlier this month. 73-year-old Kathy McGuinness died in hospital on Christmas Day. The blast, which happened in the early hours on the 10th of December, destroyed the building in St Helier. Ms McGuinness lived in an adjacent building. An inquest will open this Friday before being adjourned while an investigation continues. At least 40 people are believed to have died as a result of a severe Arctic freeze that continues to grip much of the US and Canada. Officials say the worst-hit area is the city of Buffalo in New York State. Amid the snow, ice and freezing temperatures, thousands of flights have been cancelled and more than 150,000 homes are still without power. Russia's defence ministry say 3 of its military personnel have been killed after a Ukrainian drone was shot down over an airbase hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin says they were hit by falling debris in Russia's southeast. It's the second attack on military sites this month and raises concerns among Russians that Ukraine can get past Moscow's air defences. Kyiv has not commented on the incident. The UK's rail networks are at a standstill today as members of the RMT union hold strike action over pay. Hundreds of trains usually run on Boxing Day, but they've all been cancelled. The AA is warning of traffic jams with more than 15 million cars expected on UK roads. 20,000 Eurostar passengers have been forced to make alternative plans as it's cancelled all services to London, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. Travel expert Simon Calder says the strikes are destroying the rail network.
1 million people like me who don't have a car or access to a car who have to travel by rail. And to be told, oh, come back middle of January isn't good enough. The rail unions, I think, have completely misjudged it. The government has completely misjudged it. The passenger and the taxpayer are caught up in this middle of this kind of ideological row, and it's absolutely all it's doing is destroying the railways.
The UK Health Security Agency will stop publishing COVID-19 data early next month. The chief data scientist says it's no longer necessary as the country is now living with the disease. Data had been published weekly during the peak of the pandemic and every 2 weeks since April this year. Officials say COVID will still be monitored. And shoppers are expected to spend less in the sales today as the cost of living continues to rise. New research by Barclaycard Payments found that the average customer intends to buy £229 worth of items in the post-Christmas sales. That's 4% less than last year. The study also found that some shoppers expect to use reselling sites to buy items or offload unwanted gifts. Despite that, industry analyst Springboard says the latest data obtained today shows footfall is actually higher than last year. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's get straight back to Patrick.
Well, a very happy Boxing Day, everybody. I hope you had a fabulous day with your families or your friends or wherever yesterday and that you're just settling in. So let us keep you company all the way through until 6 p.m. Today's going to be a little bit different from our normal rolling news format. It is Boxing Day after all, which means that winding down, having a bit of fun as we recover from eating way too much yesterday. I finished eating at about 1 o'clock this morning and started again when I got up in the night for some, and then this one. Anyway, enough about me. Joining me today is former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib and former Labour Minister for Europe, Dennis McShane. Look, it's going to be great today because we're going to pick apart various different news topics. There's going to be rows along. It'll be just like Christmas. There'll be a few arguments along the way, you know, maybe a little bit of over-drinking in the breaks, and then, of course, after that, we'll all get on, shake hands and go home. OK? All right.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
What did you do yesterday for Christmas?
I had a very quiet day at home. I've got an octogenarian father, not grandfather, father, and you know, had lunch with him and basically watched telly and I went for a run. So I wasn't completely lethargic. I went for a run. Yeah.
No way. Was that like preemptively to try to burn off the old Christmas dinner, or do you just do that every single day anyway?
I have to do it. It's, you know, mental health.
See, I should learn a thing or two from you, absolutely. And Dennis, what do you do for Christmas? What's your Christmas routine?
Family, second daughter expecting baby, second grandson in February. Her husband, one of my son, 2 other daughters with their families. Quiet, she's nesting, she's getting ready. She's had flu dose the week before. Fabulous, great food, long walk around Peckham Rye and the hills around there.
That's delightful.
It was great. Very nice weather, that's what counts. Food. Then we watched a dreadful movie with Daniel Craig. I hadn't really clocked this. He's given up playing James Bond and he's playing some idiotic American detective with a weird southern drawl accent, which he can't do. So it's quite fast-paced, but
the thing is, I suppose you could argue, well, you don't want to get typecast, but once you've been Bond, then there's
it's very hard.
It is a bit. Right, well, we will continue with a variety of different Christmas-related chats throughout the course of this show. Look, I am absolutely dead keen to get you, the public, our viewers, our listeners, whether you're watching online, whatever you're doing, gbviews at gbnews.uk. What I want to see is a few things, OK? I want to see how utterly lazy you're being today. I want to see you there, belly out, massive chocolate wrappers everywhere, leftover food, empty glasses of red wine, whatever, OK, whatever. Extra points for animals in pics and GB News on the TV, OK, so bear that in mind. Also, what you're doing with your leftovers, have you had a bit of a family time, all that stuff, basically anything that you think might be nice to look at on the telly, get it in, gbviews at gbnews.uk, because the best place to be is at home, isn't it? The best place to be right now is at home, watching this show, believe it or not, because thousands of people across the country are facing travel chaos. Oh, I was going to say to Mick Lynch have a day off, but he is, that's the point, isn't he? As Britain's railways have shut down for the second day in a row. Normally, services are halted just on Christmas Day, but this year, there's a nice special edition for us. It's been extended to Boxing Day, courtesy of the strike action being staged by the RMT union. So, is this a step too far from the unions? Should they really be targeting Christmas? Ben, I mean, is this a step too far, really, do you think? Right now it's happening, or now it is happening? You're just like, oh, you know?
Well, I think they have made a mistake. You know, I had great sympathy for the RMT back in June, and generally for the public sector, who effectively had their wages squeezed over 12 years of inflation. I think they've had rises of around 5% over the 12 years to this year, whereas inflation, including the latest spike, has been 35%. So a big squeeze on their ability to buy goods. And, of course, you've also had incredibly loose monetary supply, which has pushed up the cost of housing. So you've robbed people of the ability of getting on the housing ladder. So in many ways, they've been, you know, they've had the proverbial chucked on them from a great height for a long time. So I had great sympathy back earlier this year. But I think the RMT is overplaying its hand.
Yeah.
Mick Lynch's rhetoric has become increasingly ideological and anti-conservative. And what he needs to do is really stick to his core duty in life, which is to do the best for his union members. And I don't think he would achieve that by going on strike at this time of year.
No, I agree. And also the impacts of it generally. I mean, I get that it is massively inconvenient for people. Depending on where you are in the country, it will have more of an impact than others. Shops, local businesses, I'm sure we will be looking at economic spreadsheets at some point. The estimate was about 30 million quid a day it might cost us. We'll have to wait and see. But I was on the roads this morning, Dennis. I absolutely flew back here from Chester. I'm not sure that this strike, aside from costing the country money, is having much of an impact, to be honest.
Well, I mean, in London today, tomorrow, as far as I can tell, London yesterday was completely empty.
Yeah.
I ordered only to come up from Pimlico and a cab early to get here for you. And we got here in we got here so fast, the driver said it's completely empty. Maybe tomorrow, because it's a double Boxing Day, isn't it? So tomorrow's also Boxing Day. Maybe that's when the shopping might start and it gets a bit tastier. But as usual, the forecasters got it wrong.
What do you think about the point that Ben made there about Mick Lynch's overbearing public support? I think initially people were quite keen to support them or to be seen to support them. But isn't it interesting, Dennis, I don't know, maybe you know something about this, the more left-wing you go, the less popular.
Mick, well, you know, as I keep trying to persuade you, Patrick, you can find anybody in the Labour Party saying, I've gone left-wing, please let me know. Now, Mick Lynch is a lovely London Irishman. He's got the gift of the gab and the gift of the gob. But he's also got members who voted all by themselves in Margaret Thatcher era, all her ballots, secret ballots, not the old days when union leaders could go up and order people out on strike. So we'll wait and see. The government's obviously playing very, very hardball. And wants to try and break the strike, hopes maybe the next ballot it might fall below 50%. We don't know. But I was fascinated yesterday, gobsmacked, fell off my sofa when, he said the Prince of Wales, King Charles, highlights nurses. He doesn't say anything about strikes.
No.
But my God, the message was so clear.
Do you think the message was clear? I thought he was actually quite fastidious in the way he avoided... You know, you could almost interpret his championing of the public services as, you know, we know you're vital, you should be doing your job. You could take that interpretation of it.
Of course you can. Yeah. He means it and he says it. And we also know Sunak, the richest head of government anywhere in the world, holds them in the highest contempt. You saw that weird exchange just before
Christmas.
At
the food bank.
Yeah, at the food bank. Bonkers.
It was weird. It was weird. I didn't think it was mean or ill-intentioned. I think it looks... By the way, I would urge everyone to go and watch this clip because it looks, for me anyway, a lot worse written down than it did watching the video, personally. But it was still incredibly... I mean, look, he's dishing... If you've not seen it, our Prime Minister, who does happen to be fabulously wealthy, was at a homeless shelter.
Homeless shelter,
and asked a bloke whether or not he owned his own business and wanted to go into finance, right? And obviously...
No, it's much... Forgive me, Patrick, as an old journo and a radio guy, I mean, I really paid attention. Sunak is sort of... Mr Sunak, sorry, the Prime Minister, is going down, picking up, you know, a bit of egg, bit of toast. Would you like some... What's it called? Black pudding? The gent is saying yes. He hands over very politely. I mean, Rishi Sunak is a very polite, I think probably a nice, well-meaning man.
Yes.
And then to try and keep instead of letting the guy go off and eat his food alone, he has to keep nattering to him and says,
Well, he's doing it for the camera, isn't he?
What kind of business are you in?
Yeah.
And the man says,
I'm not in business.
Homeless.
Yeah.
And then poor old Rishi, instead of changing the subject, moving on to the next person to serve, says, what kind of business would you like to be in? You can see the man is quite clever, thinking, how do I humour this idiot? Yeah. I'll talk about his business. I'd like to go into finance. Oh, really? I was in finance,
with respect, he's probably got one standard stock question that him at a load of City Party dues normally ask.
And that's interesting, and I think you're right. He fell into automatic conversation mode, and it informs you about the kind of people with whom he rubs shoulders on a regular and frequent basis. They're all kind of businessmen or financiers.
Yeah, part of me doesn't mind that. I think there's a lot tied into it. And I think he's obviously got brains and all of that stuff. But it would also be nice to have that happy mixture of someone who's very good with the numbers and also quite human. Although we did have someone before that who people might argue was too human. So we just want it all in this country, don't we?
Well, we should. We should expect the best from our leaders. Why the hell not?
I know. Ben, just dragging this kicking and screaming in a very loose sense to Mick Lynch. How can I tie up even more the main topics of the day? Mick Lynch, the strikes, Christmas. Should Mick Lynch be made to show us how he's celebrating Christmas? Because a lot of people won't have been able to see their families, Ben, would they?
No.
See what I did there?
It's got a name. Reveal it and shame it.
Reveal the guest list. How much did every item cost? Yeah.
You're fine, Mick.
Yeah.
I mean, Mick, it's a shame because Mick... it seems to me like Mick is using this as a bouncing board to go into some kind of political career, you know, from the left. And he's using it as an opportunity to trash the Tories, which is a perfectly valid thing to do if you're a public commentator on politics or you're in politics yourself. But he has a very specific job, and his job is to get the best deal for his union. And he would retain much more sympathy from the public if he stuck to, you know, his core job. You know, we take the Royal College of Nurses, by contrast. You get a real... I don't know whether you agree with this, but I get a real impression that they are genuinely reluctantly out on strike. They tried everything they could. They talked to government. They flagged this months ago. This is the first strike ever in their history. The government wasn't listening. It still refuses to negotiate. And I agree, the 19%, before you go there, the 19% demand that they made is, you know... arguably outrageous. But I feel there's a real reluctance from the nurses to doing what they're doing because the government isn't listening. And my sympathy, therefore, is much more for them. And if Mick could look across to them and see the way they're managing their campaign, you know, he might gain some tips for RMT.
Well, that's at least a start on one of our main news topics today, which is going to be strikes. And the reason why I was slightly reluctant initially anyway to lead in straight with that was because, like I said, well, unless something directly affects me, I become a lot less interested in it, ladies and gentlemen. But I drove from Cheshire down here today, and to be honest with you, the roads were clear. So this business of the AA warning that however many million people... I mean, it might be somewhere in the country, but I didn't see it. I drove for 4 hours. So there's that. But the other big one as well, really, apart from the Christmas stuff, which we'll come on to, is Suella Braverman. Interesting timing of this, I thought, really, because this came out, as far as I could see it anyway, just after midday today. So no one's really... No, apart from you lovely people, no one's really looking at the news, are they? So Suella Braverman has drawn up a blueprint for reducing immigration that would target foreign students, make it harder for them to bring their spouses to the UK, increase the minimum salaries for companies employing these workers. So essentially, in quite a direct way, it's supposed to try to reduce the overall numbers and reduce that, what's seen anyway, Dennis, as a student visa loophole. When you add this to the Rwanda flights, which may now actually take off, the talk,
Really?
The talk of, at least the talk of a P&O ferry somewhere in the Channel as an offshore processing centre, and reducing the use of hotels, plus now maybe this. Good grief, could the Conservatives be about to get to grips with immigration?
They could use, of course, Prince of Wales, our giant new aircraft carrier. It spent 239 of its last days since it was launched, in other words, about 2/3 of its last days, in the dry docks. It's so badly built. So maybe she could park all of her Albanians up there.
The optics, though, Dennis, the optics of actually putting them on a unusable, albeit, but an aircraft
You're talking about our defence industry. You're talking about Ben Wallace. Careful, Patrick.
as opposed to a P&O ferry with a water slide and a Rod Stewart lookalike who comes on at 6 p.m. Do you think they might be getting to grips with it, Ben?
No, I don't think they're getting to grips with it. I mean, the honest answer is getting to grips. That's legal immigration we're talking about.
Yeah,
getting to grips with families of people who are studying in the United Kingdom is so basic. It's a bit like one of the 5 points that Rishi Sunak put forward to deal with the illegal migration across the Channel. You know, one of his 5 points was, we're going to stop putting them up in 4-star hotels. Really? Is that part of your deterrent? That you come to the UK and you're not going to get 5-star service? I mean, if that's the extent of British political will, I think we've lost before we started this. Look, I'm a great fan of Suella Braverman. Suella Suella absolutely gets it. She's as bright as a button, incredibly well educated, and I love her ideology. But the machine is not allowing her to do what she needs to do. And Suella needs to... I mean, she does speak up. She speaks very plainly. She described it as an invasion, which offended a lot of people. But the reality is we are. This is a soft invasion of our southeastern borders. Dennis is going to throw a punch at me in a second.
Dennis was grunt.
The trouble is, Ben. No, the trouble is, Ben.
This is Boxing Day.
It's Boxing Day. We're all mates. The trouble, Ben, very simply is, I cut my teeth in politics under the awesome shadow of a great man. No, I don't think a great man. Many did, called Enoch Powell. What he was saying is that Suella Braverman's parents, your parents who brought you in from Pakistan when you were 15, that 13. They should be 30. They should be repatriated.
Oh, God, that's a bit he got wrong, by the way. Well, my mother's English. And my mother's English.
They should... Oh, if you think our friends who have got strong views in this draw any distinction between mothers and fathers, they should be repatriated. I'm very glad we faced down Enoch Powell, the Suella Braverman of his day, and said to Rishi Sunak's parents, you're welcome to make
I don't think it's fair. First of all, I don't think Enoch Powell was as bad as you say he was.
He was worse.
And I don't think it's fair to compare Suella Braverman to Enoch Powell. Suella merely wishes to bring immigration under control and to stop illegal immigration. Both perfectly legitimate, admirable aims.
Do it then. There are so many things that can be done.
Hold this thought, people. Hold this thought, because we've got loads coming your way. Yes, we are still going to be picking apart the latest on strikes, the latest on the immigration stuff as well. And joining me throughout will be Brexit Party MEP, former Brexit Party MEP, Ben Habib, and Dennis McShane as well, former Labour Minister for Europe. But loads of your pictures have already come in, thick and fast. Most of you being quite lazy, apart from a particular chap who sent me some pictures of him chopping wood. You love to see it. Anne in Cumbria has been on. Thank you very much, Anne. We'll get your pics on the screen soon. But was he going for a swim in the freezing cold sea? No. Me neither. But that is what thousands of people across the country decided to do this morning in one of Britain's more balmy traditions. We will speak to someone who took the plunge this morning in a segment that I needed rather a lot of convincing to do, because I would imagine they'd have gone swimming this morning and now will be at home completely dry and they'll be in their study. But there we go. We'll try and make it work after the weather.
UK is looking chilly out there, mix of clear spells and scattered showers. In detail, the southwest of England this evening, seeing a mixture of heavy showers and then clear spells. Temperatures around 5 to 7 Celsius for most, staying breezy along the coast, adding to the wind chill. Skies clearing then this evening for many parts in the southeast of England. Most places dry, though. Perhaps a few light showers in the east. A rather chilly evening then further across to the west in Wales, with a scattering of showers there, and breezy along the coast there particularly. Temperatures around 4 to 6 Celsius. Plenty of dry weather Boxing Day evening for the Midlands, but the risk too of some showers. Rather cold again, temperatures there down to 3 or 4 degrees. Winds staying light though. Rather breezy this evening then across northern parts of England, and further blustery showers coming in. The showers indeed falling as sleet or snow over the higher ground at times, so on the cold and icy side for many. A blustery Boxing Day evening for Scotland. Further sleet and snow, I'm afraid. Some tricky travelling conditions as a result developing at times, with the ice on untreated surfaces particularly. Temperatures around freezing. An icy evening to come too for Northern Ireland. Sleet and snow showers add to the mix, turning cold with temperatures tumbling towards freezing and the winds blustery around the coast. So a cold and frosty night for many. Ice in the north, mild, wet, windy weather moving into the west later on. That's how it's shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess I've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Right, well, how are you spending your Boxing Day? Already some wonderful pictures are coming in. Lots of cats, lots of dogs. Bizarrely, a chap somewhere in the northeast chopping wood. And Anne on her sofa in Cumbria. We will be going to these pictures throughout the course of the show. I'll make sure we'll bring you some up there. We've got a team of people beavering away behind the scenes to get you on the telly. GBviews at gbnews.uk. I want to see what you're all doing. Enjoying your Christmas presents, maybe with a glass of bubbly. You probably haven't been going swimming there, have you? In the freezing cold, because... well, let's be honest with you, that would be ludicrous. But that is what thousands of people across the UK did this morning in Boxing Day wild swimming events. And joining me now is Leslie Paddy, who did a swim off Swanage Beach this morning. She's the founder of Will Does Charity, which hosted the swim as well. And it was founded in honour of her late son. We cannot believe, I believe just before I go to you, actually, I think we might have some footage, actually, so let's play it if we've got it. Hey, there you go. Right. Wow. So this is... gosh, there's thousands of people.
Wow.
Yes, there you go. They're all running into the sea. And... goodness gracious me. Straight in. I think that's the way you've got to do it, isn't it, actually? Just get straight in. Don't mess around with your tippy toes and all
Well, they
that
tried to
stuff.
get to France to emigrate.
Tried to get to France, yeah. That would be... trust me, I think we'd have probably led the show with that, Dennis, to be fair, mate, if that had been the case. Right, well, I'll bring you back in, Leslie. Leslie, firstly, thank you very, very much for joining us, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Did you?
Yes, it was quite nice. Thank you very much. Yep,
Good.
good.
So, OK, tell us a little bit about why you actually do this swim, because for me now, I'm just quite a fat, lazy, northern mess of a man, and I would like to just be wallowing in my own filth normally at this time on a Boxing Day, surrounded by goodness knows what. But people like yourself, Leslie, you're proactive. You get up, you go swimming in the sea. Why?
Well, I find that actually cold water swimming has been really useful with my mental health, and also it gets me up in the morning, out the door, and it really does set you up. I know people can't believe it. Unless you start doing it, you can't imagine how great. It does make you feel it's completely exhilarating. But it's better to start, if you want to go all year round, it is better to start sort of about April, May time, and then go right the way through the year, rather than starting now is not quite so good.
No, but we're still looking at wonderful images there, actually, of people around the Swanage area, I believe. And how long do you actually stay in the water? Do you just stay in until everything goes numb?
Yeah, you get like a tingling feeling on your skin, but you can normally stay in about they say 1 minute for every degree. So we stay in about 10 minutes normally, something like that, this time of year. But as the year goes on, we swim longer.
I have a friend of mine who goes swimming in the Serpentine every single morning, religiously, without fail. And she says to me that it is unbelievable for her mental health and also physically. So things like sciatica and a variety of different ailments like that, I suppose you could say. She absolutely swears by it. And Leslie, I understand that mental health, as indeed, of course, is cold water swimming, but mental health is very, very close to your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the charity #WillDoes was set up in memory of my son, Will Paddy. And we help young people with mental well-being through activities. So we try to encourage them to get outside, do different things, be a bit more sporty, just not be sat indoors.
So do not take the Patrick Christys approach to life. Get yourself up, get yourself out, and go and do activities and swimming and such. But you know, I was thinking this. I was watching that video there of like thousands of people running in and thinking that's just on one beach at one time in one town of the UK. Right across it, people are going. I mean, my other mate, I've got more than two mates, all right? But he lives in Aberdeen, right. And I have. And he goes every single New Year there in the sea. It's a really big thing. This actually is a massive hobby, cold water swimming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's become really big now. I mean, I'm a part of a group in Swanage. There's about 70 ladies ranging from 20 to 80 that pretty much go in every day.
Goodness gracious me. Well, it's fantastic. So now, if people do want to donate, and it is for such a worthy cause, any charity is a worthy cause, of course, but the Will Does charity is one that's especially close to your heart, yes, but should be close to everybody's heart as well. And it really is aimed, as I understand it anyway, trying to help, especially younger people, overcome mental health problems. And this is actually, I think, promoting a direct way of doing it from what you've said, which is to go wild swimming or go cold water swimming, and that physically helps, but also helping to raise money for other people as well. So how can people lob a few quid your way?
Well, you can go to our website. We've got a donation page on there, just giving page. So any donations are, really welcome. We've raised over £265,000 since December 2019. So
wow,
we're doing really well, and we've massive support. So we're always grateful for even just £1. Always helps.
Even just £1. And that website, as far as I understand it, is willdoes.co.uk. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Good. Oh, got that right. OK, there we go. Well, look, good luck to yourself, and thank you very much. And you've fully warmed up now, by the way. You do look as though you're quite cosy, actually, there, which I imagine was a very different story this morning.
Yeah, no, I'm a lot warmer now. It wasn't too bad. Just the tips of my fingers were a bit cold today, but yeah, warmed up quite quickly with a mulled wine.
There you go. Right, well, crack on anyway. Have another couple on us, and thank you very, very much. Have a great time. All right, there you go. That is, of course, the wonderful, wonderful Leslie Paddy there, who did a swim off Swanage Beach. I mean, it's all for a good cause as well. It's all for a very, very, very good charity. I mean, goodness gracious me. Ben, have you ever gone cold water swimming?
Well, I've jumped out of, I've been in a sauna and then gone into ice-cold water for a shock. But isn't she wonderful? Wonderful lady, taking a really proactive, positive approach to dealing with mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Get people out there, get them exercising. It's just the best of British, I thought, embodied in her.
Absolutely. Dennis, I was going to go to you, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to go to the news headlines I have a slight problem with my earpiece. So apparently people have been telling me for at least 5 minutes now that I'm way over and that this could result in the channel having to shut down entirely. So sorry about that, everybody. You are with me, Patrick Christys on GB News. Up next, you heard the King's speech yesterday. Oh, there you go. It's Ben again, because Ben's going to be doing his alternative King's speech. He gets to be king for a day. He looks regal. We're also going to be talking about you, the wonderful people at home. Get your pictures coming in. I'm seeing lots of animals, lots of nice things, lots of leftovers as well. GBViews at gbnews.uk. The lazier, the better when it comes to the pictures of what you've been getting up to today. But now, though, I think maybe it is the headlines.
It's 3:36. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Police have named a woman who was killed in a Merseyside pub shooting on Christmas Eve as Elle Edwards. The 26-year-old was taken to hospital but later died. 4 men have also been treated for gunshot injuries. The search continues for the gunman. Jersey police say a 10th person has now died as a result of an explosion at a block of flats in St Helier earlier this month. 73-year-old Kathy McGuinness died in hospital on Christmas Day. An investigation is underway into exactly what caused the blast. At least 50 people are believed to have died as a result of a severe Arctic freeze that continues to grip much of the US and Canada. Officials say 25 people have been killed in the city of Buffalo in New York State. Those of you watching on television can see live images now. It's -9 degrees there. There's a wind chill of around -15. Across the US and Canada, thousands of flights have been cancelled and more than 150,000 homes are still without power. Russia's defence ministry says 3 military personnel have been killed after a Ukrainian drone was shot down over an airbase hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin says they were hit by falling debris. It's the second attack on a military site this month. Kyiv has not commented on the incident. The UK's rail networks are at a standstill today as members of the RMT union hold strike action over pay. Hundreds of trains usually run on Boxing Day, but they've all been cancelled. Eurostar has also cancelled all services to London, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. Meanwhile, the AA has warned of traffic jams with more than 15 million cars expected on UK roads. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Patrick will be back in just a moment.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, every day. Happy Boxing Day. Hope you're all playing an absolute blinder. We've had the King's speech. Oh, what do you make of that, by the way? Anyway, we had the King's speech. But what should the government really be focusing on in 2023? Throughout the course of this show, we're going to be doing our own versions of a Christmas speech. But our very own Ben Habib has put together an alternative King's speech outlining his priorities for the year. Take it away, Ben.
I'm standing here in this exquisite chapel of St George at Windsor Castle, so close to where our late Queen, my mother, is laid to rest. Christmas is a poignant time for those of us who have lost loved ones, but this Christmas is, if I may say so, especially poignant. Our late Queen was loved by a great many, not only in the United Kingdom, but across the Commonwealth and beyond. Her passing is the end of an era. She was born when we, as a nation, had an empire. Within that empire, modern democracy was spawned, slavery was abolished, and the modern concept of human rights established. And through it, we exported British values of equality, tolerance, and kindness. It is no accident that our little island set the language and framework for international law and commerce. Our late Queen also lived through perhaps some of the greatest sacrifices the nation ever made in World War II. We were far from alone in the defeat of the Nazis, but without the part we played, there can be no doubt that the war would have lasted a lot longer and its outcome would have been far from certain. From the ashes of the war was established our welfare state and some of the preeminent public services in the world. Nothing in life is perfect. There is, of course, always room for improvement, but we should be proud of our frontline emergency and other services. They have delivered for the country through thick and thin, particularly over the last few years. During the post-war period, my mother provided the stability needed to make the transition from empire to modern state. She was the glue between the old and the new, and we can all take pride in her legacy, a united kingdom where peoples of all ethnicities, cultures and religious beliefs are welcomed. As King, I'm head of the Church of England, and today is one of the holiest of Christian days, a day when light came into the world. Jesus stood for all of humanity. His light enriches all our lives, and it is his teachings that underpin our values and give us guidance in difficult times. This is not the easiest of Christmases for many, but it is a day when we can celebrate our faith, the succour it provides, and look forward with optimistic aspiration. I wish each and everyone a very Merry Christmas and prosperous year ahead.
He brings a tear to the eye, that, Ben. Well done, what a good man. Congratulations. Well, come on, bit of reaction.
Frankly,
you're rewriting yours now, aren't you?
No.
No.
I just think, my goodness, if Nigel Farage or any of the manic anti-European had spoken like that in the last 20 years, we all would have voted for him. So I think it's Saint Ben. I mean,
Saint Ben.
Should be
it was written just from the heart.
It was.
It took the start from King Charles' speech, ended pretty much where King Charles ended, and I just thought I'd give my view of the importance.
I'm so
of the
glad you
Queen's
got
life.
on the importance of reconciliation and bringing Harry and Meghan back together in the bosom of the royal family.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there was an implicit crack at Harry and Meghan. I don't know if you picked it up.
Go on.
Well,
go
when
on.
I talk about how we're, very welcoming of all ethnicities, and
good.
and we are.
Yeah.
And we should celebrate that. And we should
Where
be
do you
proud of
come
it.
from, Ben?
Well, exactly. I think I'm a great example of. I mean, multiculturalism is a charge.
Go on.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, multiculturalism, I think, is a word that's been hijacked.
Yeah.
But, we are multi-ethnic, and I prefer, we're ethnicities coming together.
Yeah.
And my father was Punjabi, Pakistani. My mother was born, I think, in Hounslow, if I haven't got it wrong, in West London. And, I'm the progeny of the empire, if you like.
Gosh. Well, I tell you what, it's produced a gem. There you go, you see, fantastic. Now, yours is going to come a little bit later on,
Sure.
I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does. It is going to come a little bit later on, it is. But, I thought it was fantastic. And you know what it was as well? It was the Christmas speech. I get that there's a lot to it, a huge amount to it. But for my money, right, what I liked out of a Christmas speech was if you come away feeling uplifted and proud to be British and optimistic about the year ahead, whilst having recognised some of the key things that maybe could have gone better within the year just gone. And I think yours did all of that. And I think King Charles's was all right at that as well.
I don't completely agree with that. I was absolutely knocked off my checks. I've been watching the Queen's speeches over rather more decades than the Christmas messages, rather more decades than I care to admit. And this was one that actually dealt with today's problems. The Queen, for example, during the COVID era said, we'll meet again.
Yes.
She could find the heartbeat of the nation as needed, but never really discussed anything in a very, very serious way. Yesterday was in your face. Our nurses, we know how the government's treating them. And then
Well, he didn't say that. To be fair, Dennis, he didn't say that.
He almost explicitly didn't say that.
He didn't say anything about Liz Truss except, dear, oh dear, not you again. He didn't say anything about Liz Truss.
No.
The nation got the message. Now,
Liz Truss, how did Liz Truss get trashed in that speech? Come on.
and so I think Her Majesty had the old-fashioned Queen's speech. He's invented a new one. I don't know how he follows it next year.
For a start, there was a lot to...
He stood up. He stood up.
Good, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
interesting.
There is a lot to unpack here, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be returning to the speeches. Ben, a lot of love flying in, including from Lynn. You've got a fan in Lynn. Fabulous speech. That was Ben Habib's alternative King speech there. King for a day. We'll return to that a little bit later on, whenever the counterpart Dennis McShane does exactly the same thing. Presumably it'll be King Charles giving away all his property, using it to house the poor and stuff like that. But we'll have to see.
That's a bit you wrote, Patrick.
We'll have to see. OK, all right. Now, how are you recovering from Christmas Day? Maybe leftovers and a festive film, like a lot of people have been getting in touch. Wonderful pictures coming in, by the way. They will get an airing shortly. But Die Hard or Love Actually, that's what I know from your films. You might even be mad enough to take that freezing swim. We heard all about that earlier, but lots of you will be heading to the high street as Britain's shops slash their prices after Christmas. Today, I want to help you make the most of these Boxing Day bargains. And I've got skin in the game here, people, because my birthday falls slap bang in the middle of January, which means there's still enough time, if you're out there, to get me a cut-price gift and post it to the GB News office in time for the 15th of January. Joining me now is Deepak Taylor, someone who knows a thing or two about getting the most for your money. He's the founder of Latest Free Stuff and Latest Deals UK, which, to be fair, are both incredibly Googleable thing. I see what you did there, mate. That's not just a hat rack, is it? You must get a lot of web traffic on the back of that. But anyway, they are two websites helping shoppers get more for less. Where are the deals? Hit me. Come on.
Hey, Patrick. How are you?
All right, mate. Happy Christmas, by the way. I hope you had a good Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yes, very, very good Christmas. So yes, Boxing Day today. There's lots and lots of deals happening. John Lewis have launched a really big 50% off sale. Top names include Reese, Hobbs, Ted Baker's. For example, Ted Baker shoes at John Lewis are down to £66 from £110. Ted Baker tote bags are half price today. And the women's ankle boots that are reduced down to £165, from £165 down to £82 today. So there's a wide variety of stuff, but there's also retailers like Wayfair, Debenhams, Boohoo, all of them have launched big sales today.
Wow, I tell you what, though, it is especially gutting for anyone who bought Ted Baker shoes a couple of days ago, anything from Reese, for example, because now they realise that if they'd just held fire a little bit, maybe pushed Christmas back, blamed it, oh, sorry, I won't be able to see you on the day because of the strikes, so I'll see you the week after, you could get everything now for half price, can you? How do you find all these deals? Do you have to manually trawl through their websites?
So the community that we run, Latest Deals, is actually like a community site where people actually post and find their own deals, and they vote them up and down depending on how good they are. So we don't actually, well, I actually post deals on there myself, but we also have a community of people, over 2 million people, who actually post deals themselves too, for you to find the best deal.
And it just shows you as well, doesn't it? Because today is a massive day with the sales, tomorrow will be as well. And then there's the January sales, isn't there? When is the best day to get sales? Is it actually today, or does the value for money slowly slide off over the course of the month?
Well, actually, the golden rule of sales is actually to research the product you want beforehand and actually know the price history. So it's not actually a specific day you should be looking for. And you need to make sure that you know when it's going to be cheapest, or kind of use tools and platforms online to track the price of them. The worst thing you can do is actually kind of do spontaneous purchases where you think you're getting a very good deal, but you might not be, and you'll only find out a bit later.
Oh, I see. Right. So just because something on a tag says, you know, it was 500 quid and now it's 200, actually it might have been massively overpriced at 500 to begin with, and muggins like me over here walked in and thinks that they're saving 300 big ones, and actually I've just mugged myself off, haven't I? I've got to ask you, what's the best deal you've ever got?
The best deal is actually something I got for free, funny enough. So
Wow.
Colgate a few years ago were giving away £170 electric toothbrush. And I think they had 9,000 to give away.
Gosh.
One just because it was first come, first serve. So it was a crazy promotion they were running on their Facebook page a few years ago, but it actually arrived.
Fantastic. And thanks to people like you. I mean, when you really think about the amount of money that you must have saved people over the course of how many years you've been doing this, someone probably owes you quite a lot, actually. Now, the final question before I let you get going. I can't help but notice in the top corner of my screen, when I look at you, it says Thailand. Do you live in Thailand? Are you based in Thailand? Did you get a good deal on a holiday to Thailand? How does it work?
No, actually, funny enough, Thailand is actually just my honeymoon destination. So you're interrupting my honeymoon for now.
You are on honeymoon right now?
I'm on honeymoon right now, yeah. We flew out a few days ago. Got married in the summer, so... and I've just
you're talking to me on your honeymoon, yeah? I'm Ben Habib, Dennis McShane. No one wants to talk to Dennis McShane on their honeymoon, you know?
Or any other day of the year.
Oh, no, we were getting along so well.
That was a joke. That was a joke. I couldn't resist it.
I know, I just said that. Dennis, I'm sorry. He's high off of his Christmas speech. But look, no, thank you very much. I'll tell you what, I will let you get back to your honeymoon, right? Because I suspect someone's going to be very, very annoyed with you if you spend any longer working on your honeymoon and indeed talking to me. So thank you very, very much, Dennis McShane. Can someone does really want to talk to him? Can I ask, what's the website again? Read your website out for us so people can get the best deals.
So the best deals, the website called latestdeals.co.uk, and if you want free stuff, it'd be latestfreestuff.co.uk.
OK, fantastic. Look, thank you very much, Deepak, and happy honeymoon, my good man. Deepak Taylor there, founder of Latest Free Stuff and Latest Deals UK. Gosh, that was special, wasn't it? Right, OK, well, so throughout the show, I've been asking you to send in pictures. Yes, well, we've done it. Send in pictures of what you've been up to today. I did say the lazier the better. Madeline's been on. Is that right? Madeline's been on. Oh, this isn't lazy, but it is nice. On Twitter, sent pictures of her Boxing Day sea swim. She's in Langland Bay, Gower in South Wales. It doesn't... I'm sure it's colder than it... Look, oh yeah, it started hailing. Look at that. So Madeline was in this beautiful weather before it started hailing. A user on Twitter, apparently, has sent us another image, I believe. I think there's one that, yes. Oh, this is Boxing Day done right. Seems to be enjoying the football. There's a fry-up.
That's a great photo.
That is a fantastic... There's a tree next to the telly. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Our next image is from Irene. Thank you, by the way, ladies and gents, for sending all this in. She's walking her dog, Jack, in the park. Well done. Come on, Irene. Anyway, I mentioned earlier someone sent in pictures of them chopping wood. Oh, yes, here is John using his spare time Boxing Day for good use. I hope no one bought you an axe for Christmas, John, because if they did, I think that says a lot more about you. Anyway, right, thank you very much, everybody who's been sending them in. You are with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News. Lots to come in the next hour. Our big main news stories of the day, and also, as well, more of you. We'll go to have a short break now. Let's take it easy.
UK is looking chilly out there, mix of clear spells and scattered showers. In detail, the southwest of England this evening, seeing a mixture of heavy showers and then clear spells. Temperatures around 5 to 7 Celsius for most, staying breezy along the coast, adding to the wind chill. Skies clearing then this evening for many parts in the southeast of England. Most places dry, though. Perhaps a few light showers in the east. A rather chilly evening then further across to the west in Wales, with a scattering of showers there, and breezy along the coast there particularly. Temperatures around 4 to 6 Celsius. Plenty of dry weather Boxing Day evening for the Midlands, but the risk too of some showers. Rather cold again, temperatures there down to 3 or 4 degrees. Winds staying light though. Rather breezy this evening then across northern parts of England, and further blustery showers coming in. The showers indeed falling as sleet or snow over the higher ground at times, so on the cold and icy side for many. A blustery Boxing Day evening for Scotland. Further sleet and snow, I'm afraid. Some tricky travelling conditions as a result developing at times, with the ice on untreated surfaces particularly. Temperatures around freezing. An icy evening to come too for Northern Ireland. Sleet and snow showers add to the mix, turning cold with temperatures tumbling towards freezing and the winds blustery around the coast. So a cold and frosty night for many. Ice in the north, mild, wet, windy weather moving into the west later on. That's how it's shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation, This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Welcome back, everybody. It's just gone 4 o'clock. You're with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News. Now, normally this show is all about news. When will it end? The news. But since it's Boxing Day, we're doing things slightly differently, and I've picked out 4 big topics of the day: strikes, royals, the NHS, and immigration. We'll just be sticking to them a little bit. We'll be picking through the different angles on it throughout the course of the show. Though I'm going to be joined by former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib and deliverer of Great King speeches, and former Labour Minister for Europe Dennis McShane, who's about to deliver a Great King speech. In the first hour, we did hear Ben's alternative version to the one that King Charles did yesterday. This hour, Dennis will be rocking the mic. Anyway, throughout the show, I want you to send in pictures of how you are spending Boxing Day. Send them in, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We've had dogs, we've had cats, we've had booze, we've had food. We want it all, people. We want it all. But before I get to all of that stuff, it's your latest news.
It's 1 minute past 4. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Police have named a woman who was killed in a Merseyside pub shooting on Christmas Eve as Elle Edwards. The 26-year-old was taken to hospital but later died. 4 men have also been treated for gunshot injuries. Officers say the search is continuing for the gunman, but it's not believed to have been a targeted attack. Jersey police say a 10th person has now died as a result of an explosion at a block of flats earlier this month. 73-year-old Kathy McGuinness died in hospital on Christmas Day. The blast, which happened in the early hours on the 10th of December, destroyed the building in St Helier. Ms M'Guinness lived close to that site. An inquest will open this Friday before being adjourned while the investigation continues. At least 50 people are believed to have died as a result of a severe Arctic freeze that continues to grip much of the US and Canada. Officials say 25 people have been killed in Buffalo in New York State. Those of you watching on television can see live images of the city now blanketed in snow. It's -9 degrees there, and there's a wind chill of around -15. Across the US and Canada, thousands of flights have been cancelled and more than 150,000 homes are still without power. Russia's defence ministry say 3 of its military personnel have been killed after a Ukrainian drone was shot down over an airbase hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin says they were hit by falling debris in Russia's southeast. It's the second attack on military sites this month and raises concerns among Russians that Ukraine can get past Moscow's air defences. Kyiv has not commented on the incident. The UK's rail networks are at a standstill today as members of the RMT union hold strike action over pay. Hundreds of trains usually run on Boxing Day, but they've all been cancelled. The AA is warning of traffic jams with more than 15 million cars expected on UK roads. 20,000 Eurostar passengers have been forced to make alternative plans as it's cancelled all services to London, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. Travel expert Simon Calder says the strikes are destroying the railways.
1 million people like me who don't have a car or access to a car who have to travel by rail. And to be told, oh, come back middle of January isn't good enough. The rail unions, I think, have completely misjudged it. The government has completely misjudged it. The passenger and the taxpayer are caught up in this middle of this kind of ideological row, and it's all it's doing is destroying the railways.
The UK Health Security Agency will stop publishing COVID-19 data earlier next month. The chief data scientist says it's no longer necessary, as the country is now living with the disease. Data had been published weekly during the peak of the pandemic and every 2 weeks since April this year. Officials say COVID will still be monitored. And shoppers are expected to spend less in the sales today as the cost of living continues to rise. New research by Barclaycard Payments found that the average customer intends to buy £229 worth of items in the post-Christmas sales. That's 4% less than last year. The study also found that some shoppers expect to use reselling sites to buy items or offload unwanted gifts. Despite that, industry analyst Springboard says the latest data obtained today shows footfall is actually higher than it was last year. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's get straight back to Patrick.
OK, it's Boxing Day, and that means it's time to crack open a bottle of bubbly, stick on a Christmas classic, and then gorge to your heart's content on crisps, cakes, leftover turkey. If you were lucky enough to get a turkey, you probably had to remortgage your house in order to do that this year. Beef, whatever it is. And throughout the show, I've been asking you to send in some pictures of what you've been up to so far today. The same John who was chopping wood earlier. This is great, by the way. So can I just say, before we go to these pictures, it really just shows what a diverse bunch our GB News viewers are. We've had some people who have just got their bellies out, a dog passed out, prostrate on the rug in front of them, mulled wine everywhere. Rappers, we've got someone who's been out chopping wood. Someone's been swimming in hailstorms somewhere in Wales. I mean, it is an eclectic mix, you wonderful people. Anyway, so John, off of chopping wood, right, has also said in this picture with his horse. Husband. Yes, John, fantastic stuff. And so John has spent Boxing Day chopping wood and hugging horses. Hey, there we go. Our next image comes from Kitty and her cat. That confused me there for a second. There we go. Oh, and I did say there would be bonus points for anyone who sends in a picture that includes GB News in the shot.
That's
and
cool.
we have that there. So 2 animals and GB News. You're a Christmas tree away from perfection, Kitty. Anyway, they are watching me, apparently. Kitty, great taste, absolutely great taste with what you're watching on the TV there. Right, I think that's it for the pictures for now, but we'll try to dip in and out of this throughout the course of the show. So make sure that you get them coming out. I just want to know what you're up to on Boxing Day, really, because as we've just seen from John, who chops wood and strokes horses, Kitty, who chills out with her cats, and someone who sent me absolutely something unviewable in the inbox earlier. There is a world of stuff you can do on Boxing Day, people. GBViews at gbnews.uk, at GBnews on Twitter. Right. Joining me today is the former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib and former Labour Minister for Europe Dennis McShane, who even in the breaks have been getting on rather well. I was concerned it was going to break out into some kind of Boxing Day / Christmas dinner-esque, horror show, but now at last it's been all right. And we're going to talk about more serious stuff now, a little bit more serious stuff. I decided at the top of the show to basically identify 4 news topics, and everything else we talk about is going to be Boxing Day and Christmas related and a bit of a laugh. But one of those 4 news topics is the NHS, because it's been revealed that the Royal Free Hospital Trust in North London has placed a requirement on staff to justify themselves if they hire a white candidate for a job over someone from an ethnic minority background. The Daily Mail has reported that employees have to write to the Trust chief executive on how they scored the non-white applicant. They're also required to come up with suggestions on how the candidate can improve the next time. So, I want to ask if this is just more time-wasting wokery that needs to be stamped out of our National Health Service. Dennis McShane, I will start with you. As we've got strikes and questions of affordability and people being hired as directors of lived experience for 150 grand a year and all of this stuff. Do we really need to waste time and resources justifying why they've hired a white bloke for something?
Or a white woman. I looked
in the modern world,
carefully at the story, typically Daily Mail, one hospital, Royal Free in Hampstead, where more than half of all the inpatients, the people in the wards, are of different ethnic backgrounds. Now, I think one of the best things the right have done in Britain in the last 10 years has been to completely change the colour code of the government and cabinet. Labour didn't really do it.
Yeah.
David Cameron, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, Liz... Well, no, Liz... what was she called?
I've got a problem with the microphone, Dennis. Sorry, you're not being cancelled. Whilst Dennis McShane reshuffles, he does a McShuffle, and we sort out his microphone. Ben, I'm going to get your hot take on this.
Well, OK, let's just talk about woke for a second. Woke, in my mind, is the ostensible championing of minority rights to the detriment of the majority. Yeah. That's how I see woke.
Fair enough.
And I use the word ostensible because actually in the pursuit of championing minority rights, I think what they do is great damage to everyone, including those minorities. So here you have a fantastic woke story.
Yeah.
In the pursuit of presumably ethnic neutral recruitment, they're actually instilling positive discrimination.
Absolutely.
They're encouraging you through the review process to turn away perfectly good white
because you know,
applicants.
if let's say you hired me, right, you'd have to then go to
and to justify. So I'm already prejudiced against you.
You are. Yeah.
And so in their pursuit of equality, they've inculcated prejudice, and that's got to be wrong. And we've got to stop progressive discrimination. We've got to stop it. There's no place for progressive discrimination. Everything needs to be a meritocracy. We need to be ethnically blind. We need to be blind to people's religious beliefs, by and large, in the workplace, of course, unless it's leading to hate crimes. And we've got to be blind to sexual preferences. We want the best people in the country doing the jobs at which they are the best.
All right, fair enough. Now, Dennis, I believe you're back in the room.
I hope so.
Yeah, sounds good. Not being shouted out yet, so that's great.
Good.
But this is the same NHS, Dennis. We want it to function. We've got 7 million people on NHS waiting list. We've got people who are having to go to be paid out for medical negligence. We locked down to protect our beloved NHS. And now I look at this. If you hire a white guy, you've got to go through a tribunal, or woman, and they're spending £65 million a year on prescriptions such as bread and shampoo.
Look, I don't know about shampoo at all. Maybe it's very easy for us to be smart and cocky and clever and condemn woke. I expect there are quite a lot of people with genuine hair and other head problems coming out of hospital who, to begin with, need some kind of special medical shampoo. I don't know. I'm not an expert on.
No, fair enough.
Your hair looks wonderful.
Thank you.
And Ben's got far more than I have. So it's not a problem for three of us.
It's an endangered
but
species.
I would say,
if we lined up, it'd look like the evolution of man, wouldn't it?
One of the first big things I did as a very young president of the National Union Journalists in the 1970s was to analyse the number of men and women, journalists of colour, non-white, whatever you want to call them, on the BBC, on ITV. It was before GBNews was invented. How many were there? 0. And until you actually identify that, you can't solve it. Now, I think our broadcasters...
But what are you solving? What are you solving?
What are you solving? The fact is, monochrome Britain. We haven't been monochrome Britain for a long, long time. I wish Labour had gone as far as, I said, the Tories did after 2010.
But I hope the Tories got there through meritocracy.
Well,
I mean, that may not be evidence in the form of government they've delivered.
Look, I personally don't think some of the... You mentioned Suella Braverman a moment ago, Ben. You're an admirer of her. I'm not. Well, that's political discussion, but I'm glad that we've got the most multi-ethnic and the Prime Minister cabinet in Britain. That was done by a conscious woke decision by David Cameron.
You think it was?
Yes, it was, very much.
Well, then I'm not in favour of it. I would hope and expect that actually cream floats to the top of the milk bottle and that you get the best leading the country. We need the best. If they're brown, white, whatever colour they are, I couldn't care less, as long as they're the best.
Just to clarify on that, actually, then. So you think that Suella Braverman, our Home Secretary, has only got the job...
No, I'm not. No. I'm not saying that for one second.
I'm not trying to put words in my mouth. Maybe I'm misheard.
No, I'm not. I don't. She could be white, any colour you like. I just think she's the wrong person for that job.
Well, that's a different
but I do generally think it's been a huge British breakthrough in politics. So our political class is the one that most reflects the nation compared to France or Germany or almost any other European country.
Well then, can I ask this then? Does it go too far? Because if I just look now at ethnicity, facts and figures, right? So this is on the government website, and it says here that 82% of people in England and Wales are white, 18% belong to a black, Asian, mixed or other ethnic group. So 18%, right? Of that, whatever percentage will be, say, black. But then when you look around at, well, not necessarily the cabinet, depends who's in cabinet, obviously, but, you know, advertising on TV,
it's a great example.
All of this stuff.
Yeah.
Are ethnic minorities I'm saying this with air quotes, overrepresented, if that makes sense.
Yeah, disproportionately represented. Absolutely
why is that?
Right. Well, because I think it's this, you know, we've become obsessed with the promotion of minority rights at the exclusion of the majority.
Well,
and I think it is. No, but Dennis, it's right. I see it.
It's like saying that because in many teams, I'm really trying to rattle through my head. Somebody did a very sort of rather horrid text showing the Moroccan team in the World Cup, mainly white, and the French team nearly all black. That was because those footballers have got there on their talent.
Good.
They're playing
right.
well.
And that would be my thesis.
Dennis, this is where it falls down for me, because if you look at the NHS now, just walk into it, you know, an A&E department, whenever I've been in there, you know, really, a huge proportion, I'd say much more than the national average of 18%. Much more than that in the NHS are already people of an ethnic minority background. So why would we need to have some kind of tribunal every time they decide to hire a white man or woman?
I've been reading Daily Mail stories. As a historian, I studied Daily Mail stories on Jews coming into Britain in the 1930s.
You can't compare the 1930 to 2022.
Let me just carry on. I've been comparing them over decades, because I've done so much work on racism in this country. Let's say the Daily Mail's a great paper. I've appeared in it. I'm willing to do columns, even for their
I've seen a few articles about you in the Daily Mail.
No, not about me, by me. I think that's the difference. When it's by me, it's probably truthful. And I just say I would go and check with the Royal Free or the NHS on this little story before getting up on a high horse.
Before getting carried away. We wouldn't want to get carried away. Look, both of you, thank you. I'm enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this, actually. Thank you very much, everyone who's been getting in touch as well. We've got loads more from our wonderful two panellists, Dennis McShane and Ben Habib. And we've been talking a lot there about the Royal Free Hospital in London. And we do actually have a comment from them. There we go. A Royal Free London spokesperson said, "We are committed to having a diverse workforce, and we seek to ensure all candidates, irrespective of their ethnicity, have equal opportunities to work at the Royal Free London." That is in relation to how we initially started talking, which is the fact that apparently they're going to have essentially like a works tribunal, so people need to explain why they've chosen to hire a white person over an ethnic minority candidate.
But I just want, do you see the duplicity in the statement? If you go back to the beginning, it talks about how they're committed to having a diverse workforce.
Yeah.
You cannot commit to a diverse workforce unless you've got progressive discrimination. You can't do it.
Because otherwise, taking that to its conclusion, you might get a load of job applications and maybe all of the best candidates were white.
So. And then you go on to read the rest of it, and they're trying to justify what they know to be an inherently unsustainable proposition, which debugs any notion that they're getting the best of the best.
Right.
So irrespective of that, you can't aim towards a diverse workforce, ethnically diverse workforce, irrespective of ethnicity. They are mutually exclusive.
Patrick, say that to any woman, that if they just sit around there being incredibly good executives, they will naturally arrive on the board of companies. It's for the last 30 or 40 years we have had, positive discrimination here in Europe, in America, in most democracies. Look at the dictatorship countries around the world, Putin, Xi, Modi, or autocracy, perhaps, in case of Modi, and the women just aren't there.
I disagree, Dennis. I mean, I think what we need to do is remove the barriers to opportunity for all people. We need to ensure education is fundamentally available across all ethnicities. And, by the way, a lot of the disadvantaged people in this country are from poor white working backgrounds.
This is getting lost a bit now. This is getting lost a bit. We're returning to our beloved...
It's become very serious.
NHS, right? We'll be returning to our beloved NHS a little bit later on. I did say, if you're just joining us, right, and it's Boxing Day, I don't mind it being a bit serious. It's nice, but we decided we're going to pick 4 loose themes for our news topics, and everything else is basically going to be pictures of your dogs wearing Christmas hats. So that's good. But yeah, that was one of them, which is the NHS. The other one that I'm loath to touch on, but I have to, is railway strikes. Okay, so apparently Britain's railways have shut down for the 2nd day in a row. Well, not apparently, they have, and that's down to the RMT union, Mick Lynch, who of course was not targeting Christmas. Definitely not. It just happens to be, there's just a Christmas tree there. Oh, no, there it is. And the Christmas tree is in front of me, but this just, coincidentally, these strikes are all taking place over Christmas. Anyway, the strikes have been called as part of a long-running dispute about pay and conditions. With these strikes, cause travel misery for thousands. I want to ask if the unions have too much power. Joining me to discuss this, yes, the same people as we've had all shows so far. Former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib and former Labour Minister, he's still here as well for Europe, Dennis McShane. Wonderful. I think I just started with you on the last topic, so I'll start with you on this topic now, Dennis. Unions, too much power, should they be? I suppose reading between the lines there is whether or not they should be allowed to go on strike, I suppose.
All these strikes are happening under Margaret Thatcher's legislation.
Still harping on about
Well, you have
Thatcher.
to stress this point, that they're not deciding. Mick Lynch can't call, a mouse out on strike. Yeah. He's got to get the votes of ordinary Joes and Janes, and the support is going down, which might cheer you up a bit, Patrick. And that's why I think, to some extent, you're hearing just a little hint of desperation in some of Mick's utterances.
Yeah, he needs to get on and get a deal.
Now, when I was young, you had the real big mouth trade union leaders on the television all the time, almost ordering their members out on strike. That doesn't happen now. And that's the problem for the government. They are not taking on Pat Cullen, the lovely Northern Irish mental nurse in charge of the Royal College of Nurses. They are taking on nurses. They're taking on ordinary posties, the people who kept us going during the COVID pandemic, treated with contempt. I've had no Christmas cards like none of us have for 4 days. I don't mind that. I think those men out there every morning, and women, 365 days a year, just as cold as going for an early morning swim, are our heroes to keep the nation together. That's why it's the Royal Mail. And I think, again, for the government, not even to sit down at the table with them and talk a few things through, that's the old Tory arrogance that's come back with a bang, but it is no longer the 1980s, and the nation aren't taking on Arthur Scargill and other big mouths, and the government is in a very weak position on this.
I do wonder, Ben, when it comes to the railways, for example, whether or not actually the government has played or is playing a bit of a blinder, because public support and sympathy for the rail workers is dropping, and Mick Lynch appears to be becoming increasingly more desperate.
He is. And his language is becoming more extreme, and thereby he's losing more support, and it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling problem for him, which is what the government's obviously hoping for. But, Dennis makes some really valid points with which I'm going to agree, which is that this is a public sector that's broken across the board. If we had Mick Lynch out on his own, striking, and everyone else happily at work, that would be a different debate. But actually, the vast majority of public servants have been on strike or are going on strike. And, some of them going on strike actually improves the service available, as you said at the beginning of the show, with Border Force, which is hilarious. And there are presumably less illegal migrants crossing the Channel because they haven't got their taxi service bringing them in.
Illegal migrants, Uber.
But that aside, I think there is a genuine problem here. I think the Tories have been very slow to engage, still refusing to engage. And Pat Cullen is not Mick Lynch, and they've got to get round a table and sort this out. I think Mick Lynch, he could have done a better deal earlier. The government could have done a better deal earlier, but everyone went into their silos. It's become politicised. People have become intransigent. Mick Lynch's political future now hangs in the balance, and you can see how this thing just gets slightly out of control.
Do you remember hearing, Ben, maybe a week or two ago, probably today, which I listened to, one of those ministers, I don't know their names any longer, who said that Pat Cullen is challenging her inner Mick Lynch. Patronising, misogynist, probably Steve Barclay, arrogant, stupid. And I thought, son, I've done strikes. You want to keep your strike running a lot longer. Keep insulting a woman like Mick Lynch. But that is today's leftover Tory. The ragtag and bobtails who've given us Brexit, I must have mentioned the Brexit word, are now giving us strikes.
But one thing I did think was interesting, and I will go to the weather in just a second now, is to kind of go... A point you alluded to there, just to bring it all together, both of you, which is about the fact that we have got multiple different issues in multiple different areas. Now, that has to, no matter which way you dress this up, that ultimately has to be the fault of a government to an extent, when you have issues across so many areas, and then allowing it to become a situation where there are so many different... I mean, like pretty much a general strike, wasn't quite, but not far off. That in itself is a failure of negotiation or political tactics as well. So there is that. And then I saw our very own Nigel Farage tweeted, Britain is broken, and everyone's like going, yeah, well, you broke it. Nigel's not been in power. The point is, Nigel's not been in power or didn't get anything like the Brexit that he wanted. So it was made me laugh. It made me laugh.
Well, there was a CEBR report out this morning saying one of the reasons the United Kingdom is not powering ahead economically is because they're not taking advantage of Brexit freedoms.
Well, that's Doug McWilliams. He's always believed that nonsense.
All right, I tell you what, oh, actually, that was very brief. Hold on, I didn't actually have to interrupt. I jumped the gun. Sorry, Dennis. Right, you are with me, Patrick Christys on GB News. Coming up, what are you tucking into today? Yesterday's turkey, maybe a tube of Pringles. We'll speak to nutritionists next to get all of the do's and don'ts on Christmas leftovers. Good grief, that looks good. Oh, see you in a bit.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel. Welcome back, everybody. We're trying to cling on for Christmas for a little bit longer, and many of our traditions revolve around food, don't they? Certainly the way I do it. Maybe you're sick of the old classics, though. Your turkeys, your mince pies, your stuffing. Maybe you ditch the Christmas pud and go for chocolate cake instead. It's also common to spend today regretting finishing that entire box of chocolates or having that third helping of roast potatoes. I must say, the damage that I did to that Christmas dinner yesterday was unbelievable. Anyway, joining me now to discuss all of the things Boxing Day is nutritionist Monica Price. Monica, yeah, it's good to see you. Anyway, well, happy Christmas. How were you? Did you do anything good yesterday?
I did. Thank you so much. Hello, Patrick, and hello to your guests there. Yes, I had a lovely Christmas, thank you. And like many people, we're all eating the leftovers of our Christmas dinner. And it's a wonderful time of year, Patrick. You know, I spoke to you yesterday, and I hope you had a lovely Christmas dinner, by the way. But it's all about, you know, looking at what you've eaten. And Boxing Day, actually, is a day when lots of people just start to think about their food, what they've eaten, and what they'd like to change, and to try and get along to sort of make some healthier choices if they can. It's a difficult one, but it's
now, Monica,
yeah.
you'll be pleased to know. So I was doing the breakfast show yesterday with the wonderful Ali Costello. In fact, I'll be back doing it again tomorrow as well. I was thinking of you. I was thinking of you the whole time, Monica, because I went back home, right, and as I was loading up my plate for a third time, I thought, Monica's going to be really angry with me now. She's going to be really angry with me. So I've decided I was just going to leave that day. How much damage can one day do to you, really? If I'm good now, so a lot of people watching this will be thinking, it's all right, I'll make it up. If I'm good now for the next 5 days, does the natural equilibrium work itself out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really okay to have a day when you self-indulge. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's having the sort of peace of mind to say, actually, okay, that was that day, but now I'm going to make some healthier choices. I mean, Boxing Day, as I say, traditionally it's a day when we think about going perhaps to the shops, we think about going hunting, we think about going to football, you know, we think about going to the races. These are all traditional Boxing Day things, but a lot of people do actually start to look at their health. And I think because of COVID, people more and more now are looking at their health, and that's a really good thing. So if you have overindulged yesterday, that's fine. Don't berate yourself, but just say to yourself, do you know what? Now I'm going to make some choices. And I always think, Patrick, it's about education. If you educate somebody about healthier food, then you empower them to make good choices.
I agree with you because, look, I absolutely love my food, all right? I really, really do. And I have also stopped on the old El Buzo, right? So that I see now as a way of me feeling happier is to just eat loads, eat too much. Now, I need to obviously phase that out and gradually just start to behave like a normal man, right? But at the moment, I am eating loads. And I'm not that sorry, but there are a lot more, I reckon, dead calories in booze than there are in food. Is it better for me to be eating loads and not drinking?
Is it better for you to be eating loads and not drinking? That's a very good question, but no, it's about moderation.
I want you to say specifically. No, go on. Carry on.
It's moderation in both. Now, you'll be pleased to know if you like champagne or fizzy drinks, so something sparkly. There's actually less calories in a sparkling drink, so only 100 calories, for example, in a glass of champagne. Whereas if you're having a Baileys or a liqueur, you can have sort of 180, 200, 300 calories in a glass. Now, as a nutritionist, I don't normally look at calories, but at this time of year, it's always good to let people know. Yesterday, we spoke about 7,000 calories on average during that Christmas day. That's from kind of breakfast, all the puddings, or everything we've eaten, all the sweets, all the cakes, and a little bit more. So if we did that every day, Patrick, for the rest of the year, you will put on about 20 stone. So yeah, exactly. So
this is a challenge I can't refuse. I'm sorry. I've got to do it. I've got to try and do it. Can Patrick gain 20 stone in a year? I mean, challenge accepted there.
You've got to say to yourself, you've got to say to yourself, look, it's all about your health. Health is so important. COVID's taught us one thing. It's about looking after our health. So, obesity can lead to a higher risk of heart disease, diabetes, type 2, high blood pressure. All of these things are putting enormous strain on the NHS already. And we're already seeing, millions of pounds going into type 2 diabetes, for example, because, people are getting heavier, people are getting fatter, people are becoming more obese at a very early age. So that's why I think it's about education, Patrick. It's about just letting people know and then them taking an informed choice. You can't, it's that old saying, you can lead that horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. But if you teach people and educate them on how, to have a lifestyle, then that's all you can do, really. And that's what I like to do.
Right, fantastic. And I can't remember what you said to me yesterday, but it will lead on to my answer. What's on your leftover menu today? I've been getting wonderful people to send in pictures of theirs. A varying degree of success with the leftovers in some households, it must be said. But what's on your leftover menus today?
leftover is we've got gammon and turkey. So slice up the turkey, slice up the gammon, and we're actually going to make a stir fry. So you can have rice or noodles, add lots of vegetables. All of your leftover vegetables can go into that, and try and eat something green. So throw in the spinach, some nice garlic, ginger, some turmeric, which is a really good spice for you to have, and those sort of things that are really get you on a healthy diet. So it's not sometimes about, I think I said yesterday, it's about the portion sizes. So again, just this year, just say to yourself, I'm actually going to start eating just a little bit less, and you will be amazed at that difference, how amazing that is, and that difference you will see in your body.
Monica, thank you very, very much. Monica Price there, nutritionist extraordinaire, incredibly tolerant lady as well, putting up with me for 2 days on the bounce while I try and drive an HGV through healthy eating. But thank you very, very much. Right, OK. Please keep your views coming in, your emails coming in. I'll go to the panel shortly. And we've got the King's Speech. It was the most watched programme on UK TV yesterday. Around 8.1 million people tuned in to watch Charles speak. We'll have the latest on that. What did you make of it? We're also going to have another important royal message. You tell you what, you quite literally won't get this on the BBC, ladies and gentlemen. Dennis McShane, political legend, is going to deliver an alternative Christmas speech. You are not going to want to miss this, people, OK? But first, it's your latest headlines.
"4:35. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Police have named a woman who was killed in a Merseyside pub shooting on Christmas Eve as Elle Edwards. The 26-year-old was taken to hospital but later died. 4 men have also been treated for gunshot injuries. The search continues for the gunman. Jersey police say a 10th person has now died as a result of an explosion at a block of flats in St Helier earlier this month. 73-year-old Kathy McGuinness died in hospital on Christmas Day. An investigation is underway into exactly what caused the blast. At least 50 people are believed to have died as a result of a severe Arctic freeze that continues to grip much of the US and Canada. Officials say 25 people have been killed in the city of Buffalo in New York State. Those of you watching on television can see live images of the city now. It's -9 degrees there, and there's a wind chill of around -15. Across the US and Canada, thousands of flights have been cancelled, and more than 150,000 homes are still without power. Russia's defence ministry say 3 military personnel have been killed after a Ukrainian drone was shot down over an airbase hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin says they were hit by falling debris. It's the second attack on a military site this month. Kyiv has not commented on the incident. The UK's rail networks are at a standstill today as members of the RMT union hold strike action over pay. Hundreds of trains usually run on Boxing Day. They've all been cancelled. Eurostar also cancelled all services to London, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. Meanwhile, the AA has warned of traffic jams with more than 15 million cars expected on UK roads. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're watching the People's Channel, GB News. Patrick is coming right back.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for all of the love, people sharing their love here in the inbox. Make sure you keep it coming. I do enjoy the fact that we've got you on now, you know, various different living rooms up and down the country. It's great to see. But yesterday, King Charles invaded your living room, didn't he? He delivered his first royal Christmas message from St George's Chapel in Windsor. And it was the most watched programme on Christmas Day, apart from the GB News Breakfast Show with myself and Ellie Costello, which did rather well, actually. Anyway, more than 8 million people tuned in to see the monarch deliver his speech, which highlighted those struggling with the cost of living crisis, the pressure on emergency services, and praised those donating to charities. St George's Chapel is also where the late Queen is laid to rest, and King Charles spoke of the many messages of sympathy and love he received after her death. What he didn't say, though, as much as what he did, and that's what it kind of teaches you, isn't it? The bits that he's omitted, really. Here to discuss it is royal commentator Caroline Aston, and we've got our panellists, we'll be bringing them in as well, but let's go to Caroline now. Caroline, what did you make of this speech? Can I ask you something, actually, quickly on this? He was stood up. How significant was that?
I think he was against the perfect backdrop, actually, for his first speech. We're so used, aren't we, to the figure of the Queen sitting at a desk, and then all the analysts look at whatever photographs were on the desk beside her to read subliminal messages. Well, this was a neutral background. He looked directly at us, and it was like watching him standing in front of an animated Christmas card. Wonderful choral music, and I think an ideal first outing. And, of course, so many people watched it because, of course, they were watching history. The last time we had a King's speech was 1951, when the Queen's own father spoke, his voice hoarse following lung cancer surgery. And of course, he was to die not long after that, at the beginning of February. So here we were, an historic outing, and his words, I think must have struck a chord with many people in these grey, not exactly tinsel-decked days that we're living through at the moment.
Well, no, and he's got a lot coming up because we'll have the coronation and there'll be even more fallout from whatever Harry and Meghan do next and Harry's book and all of this stuff. And there's been a lot of controversy. Andrew, still alive, and all of this stuff that's been going on and will go on around the scenes, right? But actually, King Charles now had the opportunity to stand there and I think try to teach us a little bit more about himself, despite the fact that he's literally been around for yonks, teach more about himself because he's always been at least a couple of steps behind the Queen. When it came to things like, you know, praising the NHS, public workers, people who keep the country going, he said, do you think he got that right? Because there is a backdrop of strikes taking place, isn't there?
Yes, I think it was thanking people, though, for the backdrop of support that we normally have. Of course, as Prince of Wales, he was often criticised for being far too political, for writing letters that perhaps shouldn't have been written, for lobbying for things. And now, of course, as monarch, he knows he's got to follow in his mother's constitutional monarch footsteps. I think he struck the right note, and a word of thanks for everybody who've been helping us throughout the year. The emergency services, OK, we've had the strikes there, but my goodness me, they've done fabulous work through the long period of the pandemic and doing their best under difficult circumstances. And I think His Majesty was really keen to make them know that he knew. He's visible. He's following his mother's maxim that he has to be seen to be believed. And myself, he comes across as a man of humanity and understanding, able to communicate. And myself, I thought his first outing this year as king in the aftermath of his mother's death, when he spoke to us all with the grief of the nation, as well as his own personal grief graven on his face, he struck a good chord then. And I think that his first outing, the official king's speech, well, he didn't let us down. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think I'm reading a hard copy of it now. I'd seen it a couple of times just visually and audibly. It's interesting seeing it written down, actually, and it looked a lot shorter written down than it felt in person. Something that you can't really put into the script was the little kind of looks away from the camera and curled up at the corner of the mouth every now and again. I suppose what I'm saying is the very human elements of it, which I did think actually gave us more of a glimpse earlier on into him. You described it as almost like a talking Christmas card, and I suspect that's what people want, really.
Well, of course, we all love to have a Christmas card, and one for the king, from the king rather, the first year
One of the few
of his
ones that could
reign.
get delivered this year with all the strikes, but carry on anyway.
Well, there was one coming to all of us that nothing could get in the way of. And the fact that over 8 million people watched it shows that there was a great deal of expectation. But as I watched it, I was thinking back to last Christmas, when so many commentators remarked on how very frail the Queen was looking. She was having mobility issues. She had had those mysterious preliminary investigations in hospital. And then we know that they conserved her strength as much as they could. And we had the appearances at the Jubilee. And then, of course, diminuendo, a sudden death, doing her duty right up until the end. And I'm sure the King would have been extraordinarily moved as he recorded that speech to us, remembering his mother and making particular mention of her great faith and that wonderful singing of her little town of Bethlehem. It was all perfectly pitched, in my opinion. But now, of course, the pace of movement will increase as Operation Golden Orb continues to give us a coronation in May. And we all wait to see how very different that will be to the splendid extravaganza back in 1953.
I hope it is a splendid extravaganza. I can completely get, Caroline, the idea that it would want it to be a shorter time frame. I think that's fair enough. We do live in a maybe a bit more of a crash bang wallop generation now. And actually, also, frankly, I think 3 hours was probably a bit long the first time around. Anyway, dare I say it, sacrilege of me to say that, but maybe it was. Maybe I'm showing my age there. I don't focus on anything for more than 10 seconds if it's a TikTok or whatever. But actually, I do think that maybe shortening it is fine. But I hope that's the only cutback. I don't want to see any other cutbacks. It is an advertisement to the world. We've waited long enough, and I would happily. And also, as well, the idea that, he's got to put focus on the fact that it's a cost of living crisis. Well, even if he just keeps some of the crown jewels locked away, he's still got them. They're still there. He doesn't give them to charity, right? So we might as well see them. Anyway, Caroline, thank you very much. Caroline Aston there, who is a royal commentator. Great stuff. Right, now we were discussing there a Christmas speech from a king, from royalty, and how its legacy will echo through eternity. And we thought we'd respond to it by getting Dennis McShane to do his version of a Christmas speech, OK? So, Dennis, if you were king for a day, this is, of course, former Labour Minister for Europe, our very own Dennis McShane. He's put himself in the shoes of our monarch and put together an alternative speech outlining his priorities for the year. Away, Dennis.
My fellow citizens, my dear subjects, a happy Christmas to one and all. This is my first Christmas message as your king. The last king to speak to you was my grandfather, George VI, and he did so when the British Empire seemed to be eternal, when there were almost no people of colour living in Britain and none marrying into the royal family. My dear mother grew up in that world, and I think she made enormous steps to adapt to the changes over the last 7 decades. Like her great predecessor Queen Victoria, she married a European immigrant. In the case of Queen Victoria, he came from Germany, and for my mother, my beloved late father, he came from Greece to become my father. I am proud that I am a quarter European. Now I want the monarchy to go further and seek, as it was at the beginning of my mother's reign and the years that followed, to become a young monarchy again, not an old one, asking everyone now and then, where do you come from? Next year I will be 75, 70, the biblical lifespan of a man. I hope to live until the same age as my mother and my father, and I'm happy to lead a contented life with my second wife. But Britain, our country, needs new leadership from top to bottom. So next year, in consultation with Parliament and with you all, I will seek to quietly retire and let a new generation take over. Prince William and Prince Harry are ready, in my view, to take over. I do not want them or Prince George to wait until they are old, over 60-year-old men before Prince William serves his country as monarch. I will also seek to rejuvenate the royal family. There will be no more dukedoms and other titles handed down during generations just by the chance of being born to a parent with some link to a long-forgotten third or fourth son or daughter of a monarch. The luxury, grace and favour, houses and apartments will be put at the service of the people. For traditionalists, and I respect tradition as much as the next person, this may come as a shock, but the current old thinking that governs our country needs to change, and I hope a younger, rejuvenated monarchy can show the way forward. I count on your support as I try to make the monarchy fit for the 21st century and a Britain that can get back on its feet after recent years.
Oh, Dennis McShane. Well, look, how's the politeness? Well done, Dennis. It was well read, I must say. I'll give you that. So in case you are just joining us and you think there's been some kind of remarkably
revolution
coup that's taken place, Dennis McShane has not launched a military junta into Buckingham Palace. No, alas. What we were asking our wonderful panel to do is to basically come up with an alternative Christmas. You get the drill, you're not thick. So, Dennis, fascinating that. I mean, you said you love tradition as much as the next person. At the same time, Dennis, as not waiting for our king to have a coronation before you've essentially killed off his monarchical career, and you wanted them to do away with, well, any royal grace and favour home. It's a bold look. Do you really think King Charles should abdicate?
No, it's not a question of abdicating, but for Sundays...
It is a bit.
You know, I mean, the present Pope's had to roll into St Peter's on a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He really is. He's saying some daft things now.
Right.
I don't want Charles. I've skied with Charles. I mean, unlike the Queen, who was kept in pitch-perfect condition, Charles was a great sportsman. He did polo. I mean, if I did 5 minutes of polo, my body would be wrecked for about 5 months. He's done that. He's pushed his body off into the limits. And I really think before long, and I'm speaking as a man with a knee problem, maybe a hip problem myself, about the same age, a bit younger, that really, do we want him on a stick? Do we want him? And I really do think William... I don't want William to have to wait another 25 years to become king.
I suppose it's more about just the natural order of things as opposed to what might necessarily be best.
Yes, I mean, the natural order of medieval things, Patrick. I mean, very interesting question I asked myself. We saw all of the family going in for the Christmas service yesterday at Windsor. Does Charles go to church every Sunday as the Queen did?
I don't know, Dennis.
Well, hang on a second. I mean, it's quite important. She was the head of the Church of England.
Well, he's got to talk to plants and all sorts.
No.
Just quickly,
Thank God you said that. It was me. You
all
throw
right.
me out.
Yeah, exactly. Just quick response to that before we go to some pictures.
Well, it was an interesting speech. I wasn't expecting any of that.
No, I wasn't actually.
And started off well, I thought.
and a bit like skiing, it went down.
No, it didn't. I mean, I don't want to be
England
offended.
in the World Cup started well.
I mean, it was unashamedly political. It was rewriting the constitutional setup of the United Kingdom.
Very damn.
It was trashing the government. It was bringing a kind of short-term conservative leadership feeling to the monarchy. I think he would, if he were to abdicate, be the shortest-serving monarch in history. Edward VI, I think, is the shortest now with 9 years.
Give him a couple of years.
Give him a couple of years. But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really interesting, Dennis. Yeah,
it was sparked a conversation, Dennis, and that's what we're here for, OK? So
and I was looking forward to a dukedom.
Yes, absolutely. Right, OK, I've just about got time for a little bit of you now, ladies and gentlemen, you wonderful people, because throughout the day I've been asking you to send in your pictures of how you're spending Boxing Day. Jill sent this in. Yes! She says she's spending it with her family in their Christmas jumpers. Fantastic Christmas jumpers. Eileen sent in this photo. Oh, it's of her husband Clive relaxing with a book. And that looks like a fantastic house. That's a stone fireplace. And Clive looks like he's having an absolute whale of a time. Peter sent in this image of his family.
Oh, that's lovely.
Wow, big family.
Peter, you cracked on, mate. Stephen sent in this picture of his dog. Oh, got a new crab toy. Yes, lovely stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for allowing me into your front rooms for a period of time. Massively appreciate you tuning in on Boxing Day. I hope you're keeping it suitably lazy today and that maybe you've got something rather nice in a glass and you're there with your family and you're enjoying it. Keep sending in all of your Boxing Day plans. The lazier, the better if you possibly can. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Get us on Twitter at GBNews. I have got a little bit of news topics afterwards, but mostly today, people, we're just having a bit of fun.
It is looking chilly out there, mix of clear spells and scattered showers. In detail, the southwest of England this evening, seeing a mixture of heavy showers and then clear spells. Temperatures around 5 to 7 Celsius for most, staying breezy along the coast, adding to the wind chill. Skies clearing then this evening for many parts in the southeast of England. Most places dry, though. Perhaps a few light showers in the east. A rather chilly evening then further across to the west in Wales, with a scattering of showers there, and breezy along the coast there particularly. Temperatures around 4 to 6 Celsius. Plenty of dry weather Boxing Day evening for the Midlands, but the risk too of some showers. Rather cold again, temperatures there down to 3 or 4 degrees. Winds staying light though. Rather breezy this evening then across northern parts of England, and further blustery showers coming in. The showers indeed falling as sleet or snow over the higher ground at times, so on the cold and icy side for many. A blustery Boxing Day evening for Scotland. Further sleet and snow, I'm afraid. Some tricky travelling conditions as a result developing at times, with the ice on untreated surfaces particularly. Temperatures around freezing. An icy evening to come too for Northern Ireland. Sleet and snow showers add to the mix, turning cold with temperatures tumbling towards freezing and the winds blustery around the coast. So a cold and frosty night for many. Ice in the north, mild, wet, windy weather moving into the west later on. That's how it's shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
As a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, a very good evening, everybody. Happy Boxing Day. Happy St. Stephen's Day. Yes, it's just gone 5 o'clock. You're with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News. On an average day, this show is one story after another. It's high-tempo, full-throttle news. But today's Boxing Day, so we've slowed things down a little bit. I've picked the 4 big-hitting stories of the day, and we'll be dipping in and out of them. RMT strikes, they've shut down the country's rail network. A rousing King's speech, the NHS, and a brand new immigration plan. So we will be talking about all of those, especially in this hour. This is kind of the business end of the show. Throughout the course of the show, we'll also be joined by former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib and former Labour Minister for Europe Dennis McShane. They'll be battling it out later in my Christmas quiz on the biggest news stories of the year. That's something to look forward to at 5:45. Throughout this show, though, I want you to send me pictures of how you're spending Boxing Day. Get them coming in. gbviews@gbnews.uk. The lazier, the better. More booze, the better. More animals, the better. Definitely get a picture of my mug on your TV if you can, just to prove you're watching, and get them all coming in. gbviews@gbnews.uk. But before that, it's your latest headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 5 o'clock. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Police have named a woman who was killed in a Merseyside pub shooting on Christmas Eve as Elle Edwards. The 26-year-old was at the Lighthouse in Wallasey Village with her sister and friends when she was shot. She was taken to hospital but later died. 4 men have also been treated for gunshot wounds. A search for the gunman is ongoing. Jersey police say a 10th person has now died as a result of an explosion at a block of flats earlier this month. 73-year-old Kathy McGuinness died in hospital on Christmas Day. The blast, which happened in the early hours of the 10th of December, destroyed the building in St Helier. Ms McGuinness lived nearby. An inquest will open this Friday before being adjourned while the investigation continues. At least 55 people are believed to have died as a result of a severe Arctic freeze that continues to grip much of the US and Canada. Officials say 25 people have been killed in Buffalo, in New York State. Those of you watching on television can see live images of parts of the city now. It's -9 degrees there, and there's a wind chill of around -15. Across the US and Canada, thousands of flights have been cancelled. More than 150,000 homes are still without power. Buffalo officials say some of those who've died were found in snowbanks.
The Erie County Department of Health Medical Examiner's Office confirmed through last night
13 individuals who had died as a result of the blizzard, died in a car, died outside from exposure, died in a snow shovel or cardiac event regarding the snow blowing, were found in a home. I have the very sad news to report that in addition to the 13 confirmed deaths yesterday, the Erie County Department of Health Medical Examiner's Office has confirmed an additional 12 deaths.
Staying with international news, and Russia's defense ministry say 3 of its military personnel have been killed after a Ukrainian drone was shot down over an airbase hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin says they were hit by falling debris in Russia's southeast region. It's the second attack on military sites this month and raises concerns among Russians that Ukraine can get past Moscow's air defences. Kyiv has not commented on the incident. The UK's rail networks have been at a standstill today as members of the RMT union hold strike action over pay. Hundreds of trains usually run on Boxing Day, but they've all been cancelled. 20,000 Eurostar passengers were also forced to make alternative plans as it cancelled all services to London, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. The AA warned motorists of traffic jams across the UK, with more than 15 million cars expected on the roads. The UK Health Security Agency will stop publishing COVID-19 data early next month. The chief data scientist says it's no longer necessary, as the country is now living with the disease. Data had been published weekly during the peak of the pandemic and every 2 weeks since April this year. Officials say COVID will still be monitored. And shoppers are expected to have spent less in the sales today as the cost of living continues to rise. New research by Barclaycard found the average customer intended to buy £229 worth of items in the post-Christmas sales. That's 4% less than last year. The study also found that some shoppers expected to use reselling sites to buy items or to offload unwanted gifts. Despite that, industry analyst Springboard says the latest data they obtained shows that footfall was actually higher than last year. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's get back to Patrick.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Now, whether you were planning on travelling by... I'll start again. You know what? I'll start again. Good afternoon, everybody. Whether or not you were planning to travel by plane, train or automobile, did you manage to get home for Christmas this year? Thousands of people have faced travel disruption thanks to ongoing rail and border force strikes and extreme weather. And the chaos is still not over. Usually hundreds of departures run on 26th of December after the Christmas date rail shut down. Many travellers have been forced to cancel or make alternative plans as industrial action continues. Joining me now are 3 people who've had their own struggles this Christmas. This show, this channel is all about you, our wonderful people, OK, our audience. And I'm delighted to announce that I've got Dr. Sejny Mudliar-Rensburg, Alan McNeely and Lee Harris all on the line at the same time, apparently. So thank you very, very much. Great to have you all on the show. I will start with you, Dr. Sejny. So, did you manage to get home? I can see a Christmas tree behind you, which implies to me that you managed to get to where you wanted to go to. Is that right?
Yes. Good evening, Patrick. Thank you so much for having me on, and Merry Christmas to you and Happy Boxing Day. Yes, we did manage to get to some places, but we had to scale down a lot, Patrick, because of the travel arrangements with the rail strikes and with obviously the snow that appeared unexpectedly. So we had to change our plans. We did manage to spend Christmas in Milton Keynes and Essex, and with some family and friends in Oxford as well.
Okay.
And we're still planning on celebrating and going for a family wedding in Brighton on the 31st.
OK, good. So, well, I'm glad that you had a good time, even if it was slightly scaled back. Who next? Who next? I'll take it in order. Alan. Alan, happy Christmas. Alan, how are you?
Happy Christmas, Patrick. Good afternoon to you. I'm fine, thank you.
You had a nice time. Have you been affected in any way, getting to where you need to go to, or people not being able to get to you, or was it just non-stop good times around in the McNeely household?
It hasn't affected me personally, Patrick, but it has affected my wife. She had to leave work early in order to get home. And then, of course, she's going to be delayed in getting back down to London because of the strikes that are going on at the moment. And then she'll be further delayed when she has to come up in January because of the strikes starting on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. I think they're striking then. So it's impacted on her quite a lot. It means that by the time we get through the first week of January, she'll have lost about 8 days' work. And of course, she's only paid for the days that she works. So she's not all happy about it at the end of the day. But personally, it hasn't affected me, but it has impacted upon her quite dramatically.
What do you say that, Alan? Just before I go to Lee, if we're being honest, mate, has it affected you? Because if she loses 8 days from work, I would imagine if that was me, I'd be downsizing on the present a little bit.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, who pays, Patrick? Yes, it'll be me. So in that sense, it does impact on me in that way. But it's really inconvenient for her because it means if she's not at work, someone else has to do her work for her. And if she's not there, she doesn't get paid. So there's a big impact on her.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't want to diminish that at all. And I think it's a very real, very, very real impact. Lee, over to you. Loving the hat, Lee. Loving the hat. It's Lee Harris here, looking very festive. So, I mean, have you been affected at all? Look, I was told about the 30 million people on the roads today. So, I mean, I sailed back from Cheshire to Paddington. It only took me about 2 hours and 45 minutes, the quickest I've ever got anywhere. But anyway, carry on. Did it affect you?
More of an inconvenience. You know, I consider myself lucky because I don't need to use the train to get to work. But in a couple of ways, you know, we were going to take our daughter ice skating in Bristol. The best way to get to Bristol is the train, especially now as they have this new clean air charge in Bristol. So, but we just decided to stay local over Christmas. And luckily, we can drive to see some family. But we were also going to go to London, but we put that off as well. But we do, you know, I genuinely do consider myself lucky because we don't need to get the train. But these strikes are going to disproportionately negatively impact, have a disproportionate negative impact on working class people.
Well, you're right.
The economy's already on its knees from lockdowns and inflation, you know, all made worse by Hunt's kind of high tax, defeatist, recession embracing budget. But they said they weren't going to target Christmas, and they are. They said they weren't going to hold the country to ransom, and they are. And it's, you know, people can't get to work. Small businesses are suffering. I think bars, pubs, restaurants are standing empty.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting little microcosm of British society that we've got up here, because I'd say we had essentially there in the middle, something a little bit more scaled back, a little bit of an inconvenience, perhaps quite similar to you, Lee, as well, a bit of an inconvenience, nothing too major. And then Alan as well, whose wife, bless her, has actually really struggled like the ordinary working people, you know, struggling to actually get to work. And I think this is kind of maybe a bit of a representation. I'm just going to do a quick fire one, actually, if that's all right with you guys, and find out what you've had for your leftovers today, what you've eaten so far. So the source of Boxing Day food for me is of as much interest as what the main course on the day was itself. Sejni, I'll start with you. What have you been stuffing your face with today?
I'm so glad you asked that because I wanted to mention it. You read my mind. And I do a Happy Doctor's Kitchen, and I listened to Veronica. That was absolutely amazing, her advice. And we've had leftovers. So we had leftover curry, butter chicken, leftover biryani, chicken biryani. We had leftover roast lamb, and also some of the salads that were left over, and dessert. So we've had all our leftovers, and a very lazy Boxing Day, Patrick. And you've been keeping us entertained with your amazing lineup.
Oh, there you go. Well, I can only thank both McShane and Habib. But thank you very much for that. And look, much love to you and all the family. Very grateful for you tuning in. And I tell you what, that menu sounds absolutely exquisite. Alan, what's been tickling your taste buds this Boxing Day?
Thanks. Oh, not a great deal so far, Patrick. I had my porridge this morning to keep me warmed up, and the good ladies downstairs currently concocting, I'm sure, a delicious meal out of the ingredients that would have been left over from yesterday.
I tell you what, Alan, your life. I like your life. You see, you've got the good lady downstairs cooking the meal. You're unashamed about it. You're up here. You're on the telly to your mates. You know, it's all fine. It's all fine, right? Lee, go on, mate. What are you stuffing your face with today?
I did what you did, Patrick. I literally ate all of the Christmas dinner, not just at the time. I just kept going throughout the entire day, finished the entire lot off. And today we've got Toad in the Hole. Win-win.
Fantastic. Well, look, all of you, thank you very, very much. And thank you for taking the time to come on the show today and to come on the channel and for tuning in the first place, which is why we can get your details and call you on. And I wish you all and all of your families a very happy Christmas and a very happy festive period. So thank you very much, everybody. Great stuff. Great stuff. Right, well, there you go. That was the panel. A couple of people pointing out in the inbox, it does look as though I'm constantly crying. I'd like to make a quick point of order. I have a rather annoying scratch in my eye, which means now that I have a permanently watery eye. But there we go. Anyway, just in case people thought I was getting totally emotional about Christmas dinners there, something I do get emotional about, though, is the state of our borders, because Suella Braverman's drawn up a brand new blueprint for reducing immigration into the UK. Her proposal that would make it harder for foreign students to bring their partners into the country. It's also been reported draft proposals will increase the minimum income threshold for British citizens applying for a family visa, so the amount of money that they would be on in a salary in order for them to be able to bring their family over. This is important because the Conservatives, for a while, have at least pretended to want to do something about the channel. There's been talk about offshore processing. There's been talk about flights to Rwanda. There's been talk about deals with the French. And now, I think potentially in the wake of the actual census that dropped, legal immigration, important distinction there, legal immigration, not illegal immigration, which did appear to show anyway that in several cities now the demographics are fundamentally changing. Yeah, OK, that's one thing. But also the number of people on student visas and how easy it is to use those student visas to help bring your family on board as well. And that is an area that they are trying to tighten up now to reduce, one would imagine, the overall net migration figure. So what do my two panellists, Ben Habib and Dennis McShane, think of the Home Secretary's plan? Ben Habib.
Well, it's tinkering at the edges, isn't it? You know, but before I comment on it, there are two aspects to immigration. There's the legal aspect and then there's the illegal aspect. And people who are slightly older will remember Cameron said he would get net legal immigration down to 10,000 a year. This year, we had 1 million new migrants legally enter the United Kingdom, 504,000 net when you take into account those that left. That is the biggest net migration we've had into this country in any year ever. It's a remarkable failure in government policy. And we talked about this points plan that the Conservative Party would introduce, and they did, for qualifying as legal migrants. But then they dumbed down the number of points in the salary scales in order to get people in. So you are still seeing unskilled labour coming into the country. And when you marry that up with a tax system that punishes you for working, and you can get almost as much on benefits as you can by working, actually in some cases more, you've got a broken labour market. You've got aspiration being stripped away from people, and you've got an inability to get British workers into British jobs working for Britain. And that is the fundamental problem. So I'm afraid, as much as I admire Suella, she's tinkering at the edges, and we need a much bigger sledgehammer to crack this nut.
Dennis, as long as we have 1 million people or whatever coming in every single year, and we are not doing things like building houses, some of which we're just going to...
And building houses.
Are just going to have to be on the green belt. I'm sorry, they are. I am no fan of the idea that we're going to be, slapping a load of concrete monstrosities in the countryside, but at the same time, I do also want places for people to live. So houses, increasing the numbers of GPs practices, school places, for example, all this stuff. We kind of can't have it both ways. And Suella Braverman, from my reading between the lines here, is that she's decided that it will be a lot harder to build a load of houses, a load of GPs practices, staff the GPs practices, build a load of schools. Instead, she's just trying to cut the numbers of legal immigration and net migration.
Good luck to her, frankly. It is so much rubbish. The big increase is because the government, and I'm not a fan of the government, gave a solemn pledge to the people of Hong Kong that as they face communist oppression, they could come here to England. And it's shameful.
Ukraine, Afghanistan.
That was a knee-jerk Boris Johnson response.
It's shameful, the idea that we, having made so much money about Hong Kong, should now hand over Hong Kong to the Gulag. Nobody in Britain sitting at this panel or anywhere else should be advocating that. The second lot, huge surge, Ukrainians. Less than most other countries in Europe, but just as in 1939, my father, in 1940, came here because he took a Nazi bullet, a nationalist bullet in his shoulder as a young Polish army officer. He wasn't told, stay there. He was told, come and join the common fight for democracy. Now, there are other things they're doing. The government's recruiting people in Pakistan, India, Nigeria to fill in, offering their children places here, to come to Britain to do the work that until 2-3 years ago was done by thousands of European doctors. OK, you don't like Europe.
There were 6.5 million European Union member state citizens were given settled status. In
they were, and that's good, but that wasn't enough. They're already doing jobs.
Go on. You know, it's a bit of a Ponzi scheme, just continuously taking people in.
What historically is a Ponzi scheme is to pretend that you could grow an economy without workers, dig leaks out of freezing Lincolnshire soil now in January without workers.
But how she's
the sturdy Brit, you and me, Ben, won't do those.
But Dennis, we've got to upskill and we've got to automate. That's a first world. We're a first world country. We're not a third world country that trades on unskilled, cheap labour.
This is it. And has the time come to? Is this going to be a little bit of a line in the sand moment where Swallow goes, right? Well, we're still obviously going to have immigration, but we've got this amount of people in here now, with this amount of jobs. Let's try to train the people that we've got, as opposed to
make it work
relentlessly.
You can do it tomorrow by paying enough money. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Christmas sneeze. You could do it tomorrow by increasing wages.
Or reducing taxes.
Or you can reduce taxes, but then you say you need more schools built, doctors, and you're going to do it from a magic money tree, Ben. It doesn't exist.
But is she targeting, Ben, an aspect here that maybe is quite safe territory? Because let's say that, you know, our friend from somewhere in the subcontinent or whatever comes over for a university degree, and during their time in that degree, they decide... I mean, this is a bit of a thing. When I was at university, I could not have had any dependents.
Yeah.
Not just because I was a physical mess, but also because economically I was contributing enough. Even if I'd have got the kind of part-time job many people do at university, I couldn't have supported people.
No, and it's not sensible, is it?
And it's not, but it's not true, is it?
Yeah.
The idea that someone who's at university here
has a whole load of
dependents is rubbish.
I completely agree.
So if she's trying to stop that, then that's all right.
It's a minimum prerequisite. I'm amazed it's worthy of a public announcement.
Can we actually have a little bit of a discussion between you, me and Ben at Oxford and Cambridge University, when, of course, none of us brought in our children because we didn't have any. Undergraduates, on the whole, don't have children. But Britain's also did have the best research institutions at our university. We cut down a bit since because of Brexit.
But then they'll be on the minimum. They'll be on the minimum wage required.
If they come, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
It's 28 grand or something.
With scholarships. I think we just need to tease that out. I don't mind Suella Braverman or anybody coming out with gimmick recipes. I've had that for, all my life as an MP and before Ben.
But why Dennis?
Mrs. Thatcher tried to do it. It just kept not quite working.
If you're doing a PhD, why do you need to bring your family in? You come to this country, do your PhD. Make an informed decision in the knowledge that your family is not coming to join you.
That's OK. In that case, most of our professors, we actually...
And then if we want them to stay, because they're in a particular field that we want to build or grow, then we can invite them to make an application on behalf of their family. Or, they can get the employment that you were describing, the minimum wage that's required to get the
There's so much at the margin. I'm sorry, Ben, we've been getting on so well.
We are getting on well.
It's all right. This is the right time for it to kick off, people. It's only kicking out time.
Here you get the old Brexit loan. We hate families, we hate Europeans, we hate foreign... You say you can't bring in your children.
But why? No, I didn't say you can't bring in your children.
If you're doing a PhD.
If you're doing a PhD.
For a year or 2 years.
You don't do it. So have you done it? I've done a PhD, have you? You don't do it in a few months.
You're not
Dr. Christie. We're going to call you Dr. Christie now.
That's terrifying. Imagine.
No, look, I'm not... I mean, the other things I would be looking at, for example, arguably, visas for a large number of countries. I can cite one, Brazil, one of the biggest countries in the world, where people can come in visa-free and then they disappear into the labour market. Do we need to look at that? That
of
was
course,
proposed.
that's a massive issue.
That was proposed.
That's illegal migration, of course.
David Cameron blocked all of that. In other words, there was a call to say bring in visas for Brazilian workers to stop them taking jobs. Not taking jobs. Listen, I go into...
He's disagreeing with himself.
No, I go into any...
At least we've got introspection going on.
I'm going to Weatherspoons. I had my teeth, the routine. It's a lovely Albanian dental hygienist. I go to
Weatherspoons.
Not at Weatherspoons. At Weatherspoons, it is full of people pulling pints who are not sturdy Englishmen. Can we get real that we've never in this country from day one?
But if there's a loophole, that is not from day one. That can't be right. At some point, the domestic labour market broke. And I know, having looked at the numbers in a fair amount of detail, that it just doesn't pay to work in the United Kingdom. You're better
that's
off...
a massive problem.
And that's a massive... That's the biggest problem we face as a country.
But that's going to be a huge
the biggest
problem for poor old...
It's got to pay to work.
Fine. I don't mind that, but if you cut benefits, you're going to have Rishi Sunak doing 8-hour shifts, serving out food.
Didn't say cut benefits.
Oh, I see.
It's really important. We've got to create an aspirational society where it pays to work.
Get small, medium enterprises to pay £15 a day an hour.
Shut up, Dennis. OK, all right. Right, you're with me.
That's a lot more you get for appearing on GB News, by the way. This is worse than minimum wage.
This is what, exactly where it all comes out now, isn't it? Right, you are with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News. Coming up, how do the royal family keep themselves entertained at Christmas? Do they watch Die Hard and stuff themselves with mini cheddars? We'll speak to Lucy Higginson from The Horse and Hound as well about what the monarchy get up to when Santa comes to town. That is after this.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Welcome back, everybody. Right, we all have our family Christmas pastimes and traditions, don't we? Sherry and carrots left out for Santa and his reindeer, Christmas jumpers all around, Grandpa or me falling asleep in front of the telly. But what about the royals? How do they keep themselves amused at Christmas? Joining me now is Lucy Higginson, the former editor of Horse and Hound. Lucy, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. And can I compliment you as well on Horse and Hound? It's a fantastic, fantastic thing that exists there. But what are the royal family's Christmas traditions? Because ours seem to centre around them. We look at King Charles, obviously the Queen for however long, waiting and waiting and waiting for the speech, and the speech happens. What do they do?
Well, I think I'm sure they all enjoy a family meal just as we do. I think where they're different to our regular Christmas traditions is the sort of things like the Boxing Day shoot, which is a big thing at Sandringham and still going strong by all accounts. So not everybody obviously goes pheasant shooting on Boxing Day, but it is a really big day in the field sports calendar. I suppose because all these animals, if you've got horses and dogs, they don't know it's Christmas. They still need exercising. So it's a big day in the horse racing calendar. It's a big day in the hunting calendar, and it's a big day in the shooting calendar. So today, I imagine they will all have enjoyed, hopefully, great weather, as most of us have had, for a pheasant shoot, a driven shoot.
Can I ask your views in this increasingly modern and woke world? How the idea of going on a pheasant shoot and fox hunting, I mean, this debate happens every single year, doesn't it? But we're going to do it again nonetheless. You know, does it make them relatable, the royal family? Or actually, do they just not care? It's their Christmas, do what they want?
Well, people don't often greatly understand these sports. Obviously, fox hunting's been illegal for many years, so now all the old fox hunts in Britain are faithfully doing sort of artificial hunting, laying trails and setting hounds off to follow those. So that's what's been going on all around Britain today. And pheasant shooting doesn't have the same range of criticism, and nor should it really, because it's providing birds are eaten and go into the food chain afterwards. It's actually a great way of eating a roast bird, besides being a huge contributor to the economy, and it does an awful lot for conservation as well. People think that being interested in field sports is at odds with a lot of the conservation interests of the royal family, but actually shooting and conservation go very much hand in hand and are why we have the pretty English countryside we all enjoy with lots of hedges and stands of trees and little copses and things. That's all because of hunting and shooting.
Absolutely, and I am concerned that there's potentially a bit of a loss of tradition in this country in a variety of different aspects, that is. And so it'd be nice to see the royal family still upholding some of their traditions as well. Just talk to me there a little bit, Lucy, you know, awkward conversation around the old dinner table. Do you think this year for the royals? I mean, obviously Harry and Meghan weren't there. She famously didn't go shooting though either, which is remarkable, isn't it, for an American? You would think they know a thing or two about shooting, but there we go. But Prince Andrew maybe made an appearance. Look, I suppose in a way it's like any family, you know, everyone's got a dodgy uncle.
I think Christmas is for all families a time to set aside differences, isn't it? And let the roller coaster of the traditions that we all ascribe to just rule the day and not dwell on petty politics. I think that's what we all love about Christmas. We all love the routines. We all love those of us who go to a church service or a carol service, those who go to watch Boxing Day meets, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, whether they do trail hunting or not, have gone to a local town to see the hunt come out today. We kind of fall back on those. They're comforting those traditions.
Yes.
And it's good family time. And we definitely all need to put one foot in front of another after eating far too many thousands of calories yesterday. So I think in many ways the royal family is much like us. I'm sure, you know, King Charles is renowned as a massive walker, so I'm sure if nothing else, he's been for a big walk today. But yeah, you're quite right that most Christmas tables have got a dodgy uncle or somebody around the table who's had some friction of some kind. But it's about setting those things aside.
Absolutely. It's funny, actually, because just the other day I was driving and someone spotted me in my car and they went, "Oi, Christys, you massive walker." And I thought, well, what do they mean? What do they mean? And maybe now that's what it is. Look, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Lucy Higginson there, former editor of Horse and Hound, running us through some royal traditions. We're going to be talking all about that. I want to know your traditions, though. They are coming in thick and fast. You love to see it. We're going to get pictures up very, very shortly. I've got a lot to cram in, though, in the next 25 minutes or so, because the Boxing Day hunt is one of the UK's more controversial Christmas traditions. There's calls for a crackdown by hunting and animal welfare groups who claim that there's an epidemic of illegal fox hunting. They've got a point, or are they? Are they just being killjoys, trying to undermine one of our greatest traditions? I've got a spokeswoman for PETA on that. Peter, PETA? Anyway, you say PETA. But first, it's time for your latest headlines.
33 minutes past 5, here's the latest. Police have named a woman who was killed in a Merseyside pub shooting on Christmas Eve as Elle Edwards. The 26-year-old was at the Lighthouse in Wallasey Village with her sister when she was shot. She was taken to hospital but later died. 4 men were also treated for gunshot wounds. The gunman is still at large. A 10th person has now died as a result of an explosion at a block of flats on the island of Jersey earlier this month. 73-year-old Cathy McGuinness died in hospital on Christmas Day after she was injured by the blast in St Helier. An investigation is underway. At least 50 people are believed to have died as a result of a severe Arctic freeze that continues to grip much of the US and Canada. Officials say 25 people have been killed in the city of Buffalo in New York State, where they've experienced temperatures of -9 degrees. Thousands of flights have been cancelled and more than 150,000 homes are still without power. Russia's defence ministry say 3 military personnel have been killed after a Ukrainian drone was shot down over an airbase hundreds of miles from the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin says they were hit by falling debris. It's the second attack on a military site this month. Kyiv has not commented on the incident. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Patrick will be back in just a moment.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel. OK, ladies and gentlemen, well, I'd just love to hear from you. I think here at GB News we have quite a unique connection, certainly for a TV channel, although we're also available on radio. Quite a unique connection with our wonderful viewers and listeners, and it's because we want to do stuff like this. Loads of you have been getting in touch today with your pictures, and it's Andy sending this picture of his mum, Christine. Yes, there you go. Fantastic. Now, I got a little tweet from that, so Christine very gleefully clutching her GB News mug. Thank you very much. Say that she will be delighted if she sees this on the TV. So, Christine, I hope that you are seeing it on the TV right now and that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. She's enjoying that GB News mug. Now, by the way, you can buy a GB News mug online. Apparently, Christy is like, oh, yes, I've already stooped to telesales, haven't I? This is where it is. But apparently, you can buy a GB News mug online. Mark sent in, I'm glad we used this one, his sausage dog, Griff, who is a very good boy. He's ready for his Boxing Day walk, although it'll only be little because he's only got little legs. Paul and Angela sent in their dog, Poppy. Poppy looks lovely, and it's a wonderful festive house. Nice warm colours on the Christmas tree, some cards up the wall, and crucially, a very lovely festive dog. Tracy's watching. Thank you very much, Tracy. All the way from Benidorm. Lovely stuff. Benidorm is great, by the way. And there we go. That's a mug, and there's something else she's holding us there. Wait, see what I did there? She's watching us online. I can see that, which is great. You get a point for that. You get a point for whatever's going on in that mug, which I imagine is probably gin and tonic. Tracy, if it isn't, you should sort that out, OK? Thank you very, very much. Finally, we've got time for one more. Anne. Yes, Anne. There we go. Anne is watching. She has her GB News mug. Again, they want me to tell you that it's available to buy online. Are we skint or something? Anyway, it's available to buy online, and lovely stuff. And that is me, and we had some GB News, people who also watched GB News actually on the show earlier on. So lovely stuff. Happy Boxing Day, everybody. It's great to see what you're all doing, just chilling out, relaxing, having a wonderful time. And thank you so much for sending all of those in. Right, we're moving on, because the government is facing calls to crack down on a hunting loophole. After figures suggested that hundreds of suspected illegal incidents took place in the last 5 weeks. This, by the way, is fox hunting, not anything else, OK? And the reason why we're talking about it is because the famous Boxing Day hunts. The League Against Cruel Sport said there were 303 combined incidents of hunting havoc and illegal fox hunting between the 1st of November and the 7th of December. So fox hunting was banned in England and Wales under the Hunting Act in 2004. It came into force in 2005, and it actually reminded me, I was talking a little bit earlier off air, actually, about what a simpler time this must have been, because I can really remember when fox hunting was... I'd only just gone to secondary school, actually. It was gripping the news agenda. Everything was fox hunting. Now, I'm sorry, I don't think it'd even make page 30 of the Mail, actually, but there we go. Hounds are allowed to follow a scented cloth, so trail hunting, but they're not allowed to rip a fox limb from limb. With me to discuss this further, I'm delighted to welcome Sasha Camilli, Senior PR Coordinator at PETA. Sasha, thank you very much. Can I just compliment you as well on the PETA Christmas advert, which showed a very humanised version of a turkey and made me feel absolutely shocking for what I did last night. But when it comes to the fox hunting side of things, what do you make of it? I mean, is this a British tradition, and actually a few dead foxes in the grand scheme of things is nothing too major? Does it really need for people to dedicate their life to stop it?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the compliments on our Christmas video.
It was a good advert, a very good advert.
Hunting. plain and simple, it's cruelty to animals. That's what it is. If we had people going out into the countryside and doing the same thing to dogs and cats, we would not be calling it sport or tradition. We'd be calling it animal abuse. And foxes are just as sentient and capable of feeling fear and pain as the companion animals whom we share our homes with. And it's shameful that there are still people who get enjoyment from watching them being ripped apart by dogs.
To be fair, I normally don't like banning things, and I normally don't like, look, I'm not on the big pro-vegan lobby and stuff like that. I've got to admit, though, the idea of enjoying chasing a fox around the countryside and ripping it apart with a load of dogs, to be honest with you, I don't get it. I don't see why it necessarily needs to be done. But I suppose, do people say it's a valuable part of British tradition and it is technically a sport? Do you think that maybe there's something quintessentially British about it?
Well, there's so many amazing parts of British tradition. It's such a rich culture that do not involve seeing dogs chasing a fox for hours. Sometimes the animals rupture their internal organs, and when the hounds corner the exhausted fox, sometimes they're
Can I ask though, quickly, just on that, I've just thought this. Well, hang on a minute, if there wasn't a fox to rip limb from limb, then you wouldn't need all those dogs. And actually, then do the dogs die? Or they never get born in the first place? It's a little bit like the old vegan argument, isn't it? Well, if we don't need cows, because we're all eating tofu, then we wouldn't have as many cows to begin with, would they? And you're actually stopping life. So what about the dogs, Sasha?
The dogs are also treated quite awfully when they're considered no longer useful for hunting. When they're too old, then they're sometimes killed, they're sometimes discarded. And let's not forget that often these dogs are not treated as, companion animals that we share homes with. They often live in kennels, and hunters often view them as just equipment, basically, and not as the sentient individuals that they are. So dogs are not getting a great deal out of this either. It's all around a cruel pastime, however you choose to look at it.
Can I just say, I get what you mean. The dogs do always seem quite happy to be out on a hunt, from what I can gather. But having said that, it's harder to communicate with a dog than it is a human. Sasha, I've got to ask, what did you have for Christmas dinner?
Oh, I had a lovely vegan Wellington. I had some vegan lasagna and a lovely cheesecake made from cashews and fruit.
Wow. Oh, good stuff. OK, do you have to be a vegan to work at PETA?
Well, it's not a requirement that's set in stone, but many people who join PETA are obviously interested in animal rights. Many of them are already vegan when they join us, and some become vegan along the way because of all of the, information that they learn along the way. And if you care about animal rights, it logically follows not to support an industry that torments and exploits them by the billions.
You don't ever miss the taste?
Absolutely not. There's so many amazing options these days that really, there's nothing that you really have to give up on. You can have pizza, burgers, Wellingtons, like I just mentioned. There's vegan shrimp. There's all things. So no, not really.
I get it. Hey, each to their own, absolutely. But to be honest, sometimes, and you're going to hate me for saying this, Sasha, sometimes I go into the shops and I look at the vegan section and I look at the other meat section and I think, yes, there is a choice, but that choice would be like going on holiday to Margate or the Maldives, and I think I know which one I'd rather go. But each to their own. And you know what? I need to educate myself more on this stuff, Sasha, because if I'm being honest, with a few exceptions, whenever I have really delved into a well-cooked, well-prepared vegan meal, I have absolutely loved it. So really, I'm just being rather bigoted. But there we go. Sasha, thank you very much. Sasha Camilli there, Senior PR Coordinator for PETA. Right, OK, the time has come, ladies and gentlemen, because I am joined by former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib and Dennis McShane, who've been stalwarts throughout the course of this 3-hour Boxing Day marathon. In fact, the only person who's eaten a mince pie so far is me. Neither of you two.
I thought they were on display. We can actually eat them, can we?
Well, I did it. To be honest with you, it is it's old. It's an old mince pie. You haven't even had a glass of water, nothing. No one's done anything. But it's time for something a little bit different. It's Boxing Day after all. Tomorrow, I'm reliably informed that we'll be back on the full throttle news agenda. So this year, I thought, why don't we just do a little bit of a quiz? OK, it's been a big year for news. 3 prime ministers, the tragic death of our beloved Queen, the invasion of Ukraine. I want to take a look back at it all and test my panel's knowledge now on the headline. Yeah, that's right. Test my panel's knowledge on the headlines of 2022 with Christys Christmas quiz. Hey, right, OK. Oh, so no one had bothered to... I thought I was expecting a rocket to go off there or something, but no, alas, we're on a budget. Anyway, question number 1, chaps, all right? You ready? No cheating, please. No cheating, no Googling. Question number 1. How many days was Liz Truss in office before announcing her resignation as Prime Minister? How many days was Liz Truss in office? You can play along at home. Right, I'm going to start with Ben Habib first.
I say around 40 days.
Well, you've got to be more specific than
40 days.
All right, OK.
Well, she was Prime Minister for 47 days. She announced her resignation. Went to see the Queen. No, the King. She turned up and the King said, oh dear, not you again. So let's give that maybe 6 days, 41 days.
See, 41 days. She lasted 44 days. There you go. You were the nearest one. You were Dennis the nearest one. So it's 1-0 McShane at the moment as things stands. Right, there we go. Well, I mean, look, do you think she went too soon, Ben?
I think she shouldn't have gone. I think the Bank of England should have backed her up. It should have given her support. And she should have stuck it out.
Was she ousted a little bit, actually, by the
She was defenestrated by the Treasury and the Bank of England, undoubtedly. Of course, it was cack-handed. Reducing the 45% tax rate was a step too far too early, but she was defenestrated.
But that's a concern, is it not? Because you do get a lot of people who, rightly or wrongly, talk about a deep state and they talk about all of these things. Now, they can sometimes get bracketed as conspiracy theorists and everything. I don't want us to go down the full David Icke rabbit hole here, but if the Bank of England has the power, because it doesn't particularly like something, to just defenestrate a Prime Minister and a Chancellor and move it on and replace them with someone with an ideology completely different, that's a concern.
It is a big concern. I don't think it's conspiracy theory as much as it is that the state is now a vast organism. And what do organisms do? They move to protect themselves. If you cut taxes, you're threatening the organism.
OK, fair enough. Next question, chaps. Boris Johnson's government was marred by scandals that eventually forced him to resign. What was the straw that finally broke the camel's back? Was it A, allegations of groping against Deputy Chief Whip Chris Pincher? B, the Owen Paterson lobbying scandal? C, cutting birthday cake during lockdown? Or D, using Rishi Sunak's stapler far too many times? Dennis, I'll start with you on this one. Do you remember the options?
It was the booze and the wine during lockdown and lying about it. Paterson also didn't go down too well.
What was the final thing, though? They've got to remember, I know there was a lot, but there was a final thing. So you're going...
absolutely. There's the endless lies that even it was Rishi Sunak who resigned. Now, whether he resigned knowing he was going to end up Prime Minister 2 months later, we don't know. But it was just finally... So many lies you can tell before it's over.
Just going to remind you of the options. So we've got...
I've got the options. I've got the options.
This guy, tell you what, he's
I mean, the final trigger point was Chris Pincher. Pincher by name and Pincher by nature. And I think that's what... That's what Boris Johnson said a few months beforehand, and that's what did for him.
And the answer is A.
Yeah, pull one back.
It's 1-1. It's Habib and McShane. And this one, ladies and gents, is going down to the wire. So... But there we go. Was Boris right to go? I mean, do you think on reflection, he still scores very highly when people are asked whether or not you think he'd like to have him back, or would Boris handle this particular situation better? The public, I think, do still like him. You look disgusted with that question.
No, I'm not. I'm very fond of Boris personally, but I mean, Trump was right to go, or not to have his fingers chopped off rather than cling on. And Boris Johnson was many things. I watched him when he came into the Commons. Brilliant speaker of television. Have I got news for you? Great journalist, great speaker of the party, faithful. Absolute rubbish in the House of Commons. He had nothing but contempt for parliamentary democracy.
Possibly, yeah. I can understand that, though, because for me, I get that a lot of people recognise a standard procedure and way of doing things, and I seem constitutionally incapable of sticking to whatever that is. But anyway, which is why we're kind of running out of time quite a lot. Anyway, true or false, ready? Former Love Islander Dr. Alex George was the subject of controversy at the start of the year for saying... We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and this is former Love Islander Dr. Alex George. Did he say that, yes or no?
No.
Who is Alex George?
Well, he's a former... You know what? It doesn't really matter, Dennis. Yeah. You're right, Ben. Yes, there we go. False. It was Molly May Hughes. Yeah, that was a bit of a stitch of a question, wasn't it? Right. Will Smith. Here we go. This is a good one. Will Smith was banned from the Oscars for 10 years after slapping Chris Rock after this year's edition of the award ceremony. He did win an award, but what film did he win it for appearing in? A, King Richard. B, Men in Black. C, Women of the Movement. Or D, Suicide Squad. Dennis McShane, which film did Will Smith win an Oscar for? Was it King Richard, Men in Black, Reloaded, Women of the Movement, or the Suicide Squad? In your view?
Suicide Squad.
You're going Suicide Squad. McShane's gone Suicide Squad. We've locked that in. What about you?
King Richard.
It's King Richard, and it is King Richard, in which he played the father of Serena and Venus Williams. By the way, can I just say, perhaps this is fantastic because I get to now audition to be the host of a game show. Let's be honest, it's where the easy money is, right? All of these people that you see on your TV, daytime TV, all day, every day, going, oh, what does the computer say now? They're on about £1 million a pop for that. It's madness. Anyway, I'm not bitter. Kylian Mbappe made history this year, becoming the first footballer to score 3 goals in the Men's Football World Cup final and not go on to win the tournament. How many people, including Mbappe, have scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final? The nearest guess wins. How many people, other than Mbappe, have scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final? Ben Habib.
Oh, my goodness. 5.
5. Dennis McShane.
2.
2. And the answer is... It's 1. Because it was, of course, just Sir Jeff Hurst.
Wow.
Now, I make it so neither of you get a point for that, but I make it 2-1 Habib.
Yep, absolutely.
It's 3-1 Habib. Let's make it interesting. Call it 2. OK, all right. Have we got one more question? No, we've not. So actually, Ben Habib has just won. Well done, Ben.
Congratulations, Ben.
Yes, Ben. Well, there you go. There you go. Good stuff. Well, it has been an absolute rip-roarer of a year for news, hasn't it? And thank you very much, everybody who has been getting in touch. If you could hope for one thing this year, one particular area of policy to get absolutely nailed and sorted, what would it be next year?
Removing the threshold for tax for low payers.
Removing the threshold for tax for lower payers?
Yeah, take it up to 25,000.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Interesting stuff. Yourself?
The German, it's called Pflegeversicherung. It's a very simple word. It means old age care insurance, brought in 1995. As a result, there's no problem with people with dementia, with Alzheimer's, with all the rest of it. They get looked after. It really, really works. OK, right, both of you, thank you very, very much. Up next is Jubes & Co. with Nana Quia, who is in the studio with us right now, I believe. Yes, good stuff. What's coming up on your show, Nana?
Well, I mean, look, the King's speech, it was his first ever address over the first time he's ever done it over the Christmas period. And he talked about, he talked about social care, he kind of talked about those kind of workers. And did he sort of cross the line? Did he go too far? We'll be discussing that. Plus, hunting. At the moment, fox hunting, it's a big day, it's Boxing Day. And a lot of people are really into that. Our very own Nigel Farage is actually on a hunt as we speak. But do you think that perhaps they need to tighten up the laws because those poor foxes, do you feel sorry for them? And we'll be discussing stay-at-home dads because apparently it's on the increase. That's all coming up.
That's interesting. No, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a cracker of a show. Nana, thank you very, very much. And thank you very much, Ben Habib, Dennis McShane. I've been Patrick Christys. I will see you tomorrow. Take it easy, people.
OK. It's looking chilly out there. Mix of clear spells and scattered showers. In detail, the southwest of England this evening, seeing a mixture of heavy showers and then clear spells. Temperatures around 5 to 7 Celsius for most. Staying breezy along the coast, adding to the wind chill. Skies clearing then this evening for many parts in the southeast of England. Most places dry, though. Perhaps a few light showers in the east. A rather chilly evening then further across to the west in Wales, with a scattering of showers there. And breezy along the coast there particularly. Temperatures around 4 to 6 Celsius. Plenty of dry weather Boxing Day evening for the Midlands, but the risk too of some showers. Rather cold again, temperatures there down to 3 or 4 degrees. Winds staying light though. Rather breezy this evening then across northern parts of England and further blustery showers coming in. The showers indeed falling as sleet or snow over the higher ground at times, so on the cold and icy side for many. A blustery Boxing Day evening for Scotland. Further sleet and snow, I'm afraid. Some tricky travelling conditions as a result developing at times, with the ice on untreated surfaces particularly. Temperatures around freezing. An icy evening to come too for Northern Ireland. Sleet and snow showers add to the mix, turning cold with temperatures tumbling towards freezing and the winds blustery around the coast. So a cold and frosty night for many. Ice in the north, mild, wet, windy weather moving into the west later on. That's how it's shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan